Hello and welcome here, everyone. We are here with Crunch Time GG once again for the Infinity League week number 3 as we are heading into what will be the latter half of the season. It is a 5-week season and then playoffs afterwards. Very excited to be here. Once again, my name is Orbital. With me is, of course, Ice Fire at Gaming, and we will be your two casters for this evening. Ice, how you doing?
I'm excited. This is gonna be a fun matchup between U.S. Army Esports and Arctic Force Hares. Looking at the standings right now, it is U.S. Army 2-0, while Arctic Force is at 1-1. So this can really set the stage for these next coming weeks about how they enter the playoff era. Now, remember, it's only the bottom two teams don't make playoffs, but this can really affect their seeding. So I'm excited for this potential clash of an upper bracket match.
Mm-hmm. That's the fun part, and we're already going to get into bans pretty quickly here. We can see the Senna and the Talia banned out by the side of the U.S. Army Esports, and then on the flip, it's Hui as well as Rakan. Already seeing some of these bans fly off the table means that, we are fully underway with 14.6. It's understood that a lot of these teams, Senna is such a high priority, but the Hui, I am enjoying the red side Hui bans, a lot of respect shown to that champion. Third ban for the side of the US Army. I wonder what it will be, focused either towards somewhere. It is going to be towards that mid lane.
Absolutely. And one thing to note for this patch is they did fix Azir. So Azir is no longer disabled. It is enabled as of today with the patch that came out. So it'll be interesting to see if any of these teams have been practicing it and if they're willing to pull it out in these first few matches that we have.
The Aatrox ban on the other side, though, really giving respect towards that top lane. I do believe that's actually headed towards LoserQLegend, who is quite good. But at the same time, we are looking at that Smolder. Now, recently, Smolder was nerfed, of course. Now, no longer infinitely stacking, but still pretty dang strong. If we actually see the TMO, I will be very, very surprised. But blue side Smolder makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Smolder, even though it's not infinitely scaling anymore, I think it's still a very powerful pick, especially once you hit that 225. So seeing it matched up to something like the Jinx, I like that. I think the Jinx does very well into Smolder now, since he's not infinitely scaling. And the Jinx can output a lot of damage, even early on when you're not suspecting it, even on one, maybe 1.5 items. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of support they pair it up with. I'm hoping for an aggressive bot lane to try to shut down the Smolder early.
Mm, Could be paired with something like the Nautilus, which we've seen run pretty rampant, depending if you want to. However, with the Jinx, you usually want the hyper scaling style with the utility support in the back pocket. Vi, though, makes sense. The sisters will be entering the Rift once again. If they so wish to go a little bit crazy, they can, especially with the likes of a very immobile champion like the Smolder. But if we are watching that Vi, I do want to see another dive buddy. We'll see at the side of AFH are able to bring it together. For blue side, though, for U.S. Army, I do want to see a little bit more safety come out here. Another carry I'm not super excited about, but Viego individually very much makes sense.
Absolutely. This Vi into the Viego Smolder is actually really strong for the side of AFH because with Smolder, you need to get on top of him and you need to shut him down and you need to blow him up. And the Vi is perfect for that because it's very hard to get out of the cease and desist. And if you pair it off with something like an Orianna or another dive buddy, it kind of makes it hard for Smolder to play the game when you get into that mid and late game. So seeing this Nautilus is just another dive go in instead of a protect the Smolder. So I'm interested to see what they plan on playing in this mid and top to try and play that, as now that it's enabled, it looks like they want to play the Azir.
I like it. It makes sense. You know
It
that
does.
most of the enemy team is going to be coming towards you, so might as well pick it up. It's a pretty nice team fight tactic, as well as keeping the Jinx safe as well. So at the current moment, Arctic Hares are going ahead and putting themselves really, really nicely into position. And now you get to start targeting, a couple of those mid lane targets if you wish, or into the top side, whichever one you deem really necessary at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And because you picked that Azir on R3, you can actually ban out any counters that you don't want to see into it.
True.
It does leave your top lane a little bit weaker in terms of the bans, but you can see they already sent one up there. And since they also sent one in for mid with the Hui, there is opportunities for them to send another ban top lane and not have to worry too much about it. But waiting on these bans coming from blue side, it'll be interesting because both these comps are very different in how they want to play and both have very clear win conditions. I want to see how they round them out.
That is very much the right scaling and right factor to look into. The synergy really needs to come out with these next few picks for either side. And that's what I always like to talk about, right? We see the ability of those glue pieces, I think is the best way to put it. And
Yeah,
I'm just these bans are properly targeted. I love the mid lane focus. As you were saying, the Azir doesn't want to get cut out. You don't want to be outrange either, but it's still leaving a decent chunk of the pocket. You are going to grab that counter pick support if you wish. You can go the Braum. I think Braum is always a really good option. Or you could go with that Lulu, still working with that keep the ADC alive. Top lane focus, though, with that support Van Malkai into the Gwen. I really like the denial of late game scaling tools.
absolutely. The rel coming through is actually a secret like really good dive buddy, I think, because you get the initial lockdown from the Vi and then the magnet storm coming from the rel after crashdown. It can be absolutely just team fight breaking. And allows Jinx to maybe get, because you have a squishy in Viego and Smolder, if Jinx gets one reset, she can take over this fight if the rel can get a nicely placed WR off. So I'm super excited for these kind of explosive team fights, and that's not even counting in Azir.
It's already starting to look like a front to back. Just rush it as hard as you can and see what happens. The Orianna only synergizes so well with it. Going to be a little bit short range. You're going to be dealing with a lot of the Azir poke, but if you get past the early game, you're in pretty good position to follow behind the Nautilus or the Viego. This dive composition on the US Army Esports side is coming to fruition very nicely. Here's the big deal though. B5, you're looking for that top lane. You got to blind pick it. I'm sorry, that's just how things are working out. And you don't really have a choice. So what do you decide to do? Blind picking the Renekton against a team fight composition.
Is a really good pick in isolation. It's a very strong early game lane dominant champion. And if you can rack up the kills, it can do a lot for a team fight and disrupting the back.
Oh,
But it's going to struggle, especially into a Poppy.
yep. That's what we were scared about. The counter pick can come out. It can annihilate your entire want. Granted, the steadfast presence can only block once, and then you're able to freely dive in and out. But that initial stop is more than enough. You deny the Renekton even getting the reset on the slice and dice. If you deny the Viego even the chance to go in. If you deny this the Nautilus a chance, it's such a good pickup. This R5 for the side of Arctic Force Hares, I think is really, really good. Really, really well done from what they're hoping to do. It rounds out their team fight nicely, gives them a good front line. I hate saying this because in isolation, U.S. Army's draft is good as well, but I just really like what Arctic Force Hares have done.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like this front to back that they put together for sure. And even when you do get stopped by that initial steadfast presence, and maybe you might have a chance to get back into it, but then you have Keeper's Verdict that just launches you out. So, I mean, no matter who tries to go in, as long as you're not ulting out the Nautilus, you're pretty much making a big impact on the fight with that. So the Poppy pickup here is really good if they are really good on the champion, right? You have to know who to knock out and when, and it's always good around objectives and knocking out that jungler. So I'm super excited for this Poppy pick.
I'm excited as well. Right now, I do want to ask final thoughts here, Ice. What are we looking at? Who do you think is going to come out with this game one win?
I like the comp of Arctic Force. Yeah, they're down in the standings. I think they had a bit of a tough time last week or the week before with their loss. But overall, this comp is very easy to execute. There's not too much to go into it. You don't have to try any crazy flanks or anything. Whereas with the U.S. Army Esports comp, you have to get a Renekton flank. You have to get a good ball delivery on Orianna from the Viego or the Nautilus or even the Renekton to make something happen. And then the Smolder needs to scale to late, and it will be outscaled, I think, with the Azir and with the Jinx now that they don't infinitely scale. Yeah, you have that Elder Dragon, but I think the Arctic Force Hares comp is just going to get that little bit further, and it's a little bit easier to get to that point rather than from the U.S. Army side.
I can agree with that one. I am also leaning into the Arctic Forest Hares composition, but if the early game and into scaling works for US Army, they have a nasty comp as well. We'll go ahead and wait and see. Right now, we'll go to a short break and get right into game for game number 1 of this week 3 Infinity League matchup. Don't go anywhere. are live here. It is going to be a good time as we have the game alive for you. Of course, it is a little bit squished there, so we'll get that adjusted as we go. But very excited for this game. As you can see here, full screen mode is on and activated, and we have the players ready to go. Once again, it is LoserQLegend in the top lane for US Army Esports, into HanJin in the jungle, Fox in the mid lane, twinkerbelle in the ADC role, and then Fanng in the support role.
Yeah, and then on the red side, we have GitCat in the top side, Evil Lobster in the jungle, Andromeda piloting a Zero in the mid lane, BrannyFan on the Jinx, and Jordan Bot on the Rel. Looks like everybody's just 5-pointing to start this game out. Pretty simple, easy start. Probably the safest start anyone can do in League of Legends right now. Just make sure that there's no invades happening.
And just a heads up, again, for US Army Esports, one of the interesting things is Twinkerbelle is actually a sub for the teams. So US Army Esports not playing with their usual roster, so very interested to see how this plays out and if that will affect anything here in the game. But to start things off, it's pretty simplistic, very a nice, gentle start, I should say, as both junglers are going to start on opposite sides of the map, go ahead, take their red buffs, and work their way through.
Yeah, absolutely. Usually, when you're trying to play with a sub, hopefully you get some time with them beforehand, so you can develop some sort of synergy. But that's not always the case. So we hope that they've been able to do that. Otherwise, you could see, especially in the bot lane, where between your support and ADC, it's very important to have some sort of synergy. Uh, and seeing a little bit of trading in the top side here from GitCat, you can see the power of the Poppy early with the Qs. You have to, as Renekton, avoid that double proc because it will chunk your health.
It's a scary one. All right, well, let's see what more, as the trading patterns are actually heading really heavily. I wasn't sure about that one. It was quite surprising as we get the ever so lovely mouse. It is quite fun to watch. Listen, the mouse is pretty dang good. I like it.
Always.
Of course, right now, it is going to be another heavy chunk between the two. The top lane is really going at it here, and I'm a little bit scared about that. The top laners fighting now means LoserQLegend is going to be on the back foot of that. For GitCat, you're more than happy to scale up. If you don't win out on some of these early trades, you are kind of locked into this, all right, I'm just going to farm up and be a slight bruiser later on. So we'll see if HanJin is able to really help out later.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see there's no early wards from this Poppy to potentially prevent a gank from coming through. But the issue becomes from the Poppy is that because of her shield, early Renekton Qs don't do any damages. It looks like they're attempting a gank.
Andromeda in the mid lane gets jumped on, and US Army Esports easily pick it up. Andromeda was not ready for what went down in first blood. Goes the way of HanJin.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the power of like this early Viego. You can get early stuns off through, I believe it's your W, and you charge it up, toss it out. It also acts as dash. It gets you into the fight. There's another early trade happening against the Nautilus.
All right, not too bad. Of course, we'll see if that plays out any more. So, big questions abound of how quickly they are going to get some more of this. Fanng in the bot side, you talked about the Nautilus eating a little bit of damage. Of course, with the Nautilus, you're more than happy about being able to kind of maintain about 3/4. As long as you can land a hook. As long as you can land a hook, you're happy.
Exactly. I mean, these hooks are so important from this Nautilus, especially when you get later on into this game, because if it is at any point an even slightly even game, this Jinx can take over. And so landing that crucial hook onto Azir or Jinx can change the team fight for your team.
Let's see what they can do here. Looks like they are just going to go straight for a little of a gentle hold. I think it's going to be the Arctic Forest Hares just getting a lot of wards down. And actually, take a look at that. I wasn't able to point it out earlier. Massive ward there, just trying to keep track of HanJin. Pink wards all around, and even more so. And that's why we're seeing a little rotate towards this top side. You know the enemy jungler's on the bot side, so you're going to go on the top and GitCat. Going to go ahead and draw that flash out of LoserQLegend. Thanks to Evil Lobster. They're going to hold on to it and, still feel okay.
Yeah, you could see that he was trying to slice and dice out, got blocked by the W. It's really good by GitCat to get that stun and force the flash out. Now what we need to see is a re-gank by this Vi to punish this flash, because his flash is uh, about 5 minutes on cooldown. So making sure that you punish that, especially on this Renekton, and shut him down early is going to be key.
See if they can do it. GitCat, of course, sitting on low HP, but the trade at the globals is really where we're sitting at. This is the standard start. Nothing too crazy. Grubs go one way, Dragon goes the other. I am sad though. Having an Infernal Drag as number 2 means that we don't get Infernal Soul, my favorite personal soul of the entire game, of course.
Yes, the most volatile soul of them all, it feels like. You can't really
Yeah.
you can't do anything if that soul comes out. It's so rough to play into. But I mean, it's a fun soul, and it is unfortunate that we're not going to get that as a soul, especially with these two team comps. It could really make for a really exciting game here. But going through, the junglers are just back to farming. It looks like we might have a dive coming through. They're setting up with it with the Viego and Nautilus heading topside.
And GitCat was on the recall, but because you don't, you're kind of screwed, and I don't think anyone's really going to be able to help. The pinch against the wall now means HanJin is getting eaten up, and you are able to survive thanks because you took the soul out of the poppy. You get the reduction on the damage on the tower, and they get out scot-free. US Army Esports starting off pretty dang strong. Bot side, twinkerbelle trying to stay alive. Flash forward, heal comes out, and twinkerbelle holding onto their own flash. Big dubs for US Army Esports. Lose no one, gather a lot of pressure topside.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like the kill did also go onto the Renekton, which is who you needed on, especially right now, because they were getting zoned off so early on some of that CS. Now they have gotten their CS back up, so with that, the kill going over, it does give them a good little advantage over GitCat, but it'll be interesting to see, because this Poppy, it looks like Poppy's going tier. Not something I expect to see out of a Poppy. You have any thoughts on this?
Is this actually going to be like man immune poppy on hit and everything? Because it's
I
grass. You're not building Fimbulwinter early.
Yeah, I don't know what this is. I've never actually seen Poppy go tier to start, so I'm very confused. There's a good W coming out from LoserQ onto GitCat. Does get a
Yeah.
good trade-off, and they do have their ult. Oh, LoserQ does not have his ultimate, but GitCat does, so does have to play a little bit more careful.
Uh-oh. That's scary. You're playing with fire. LoserQLegend is just like dancing in the face of death. But I do agree, GitCat is going to be really interesting to watch for. And it does give scaling. It gives a lot of trading power as well. You know, you don't really run out of mana with that Q any longer or with the auto attacks or anything like that. You can spam abilities all day long. You are still building into that tank build as well. The Bomby Cinder picked up for the Poppy. So GitCat will be okay in that sense. And even in the trades, LoserQLegend not really maintaining a strong minion lead. You're looking at only about a wave, which is going to be recollected by GitCat afterwards. Main thing is actually this bottom lane. Twinkerbelle, the sub coming in on the Smolder. Anytime you see the Smolder, you know the early game is not going to be good. Late game is powerful. Abuse that early game as much as possible. It's about, I want to say, a 24 CS lead. That's about 3-4 waves in there for the Jinx. Top side, LoserQLegend going ahead, taking a little bit of pain, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And because GitCat did recall and then come back, you can see that the power of the items is starting to equate out for each side. Uh, but in this mid lane, Fox is kind of putting Andromeda on their heels almost constantly with this ball. So it's definitely good for the Orianna early, because Orianna does have that early power, but it will fall off once Azir gets their first and second items and can really start to clear this wave on spawn. And it looks like they're prepping for another dive, except this time into the jungle. This is exciting to see.
I like it. They're also taking it off spawn as well. They're not even waiting. Jordan not going to enjoy this answer. That's going to be the rel jumped on. Rest of the team trying to jump in, but Fox going in the wrong direction instead. It will actually be the Arctic Fox Hares to try and jump in. That's slam against the wall. GitCat, though, tried to go a little bit too far and loses their life because of that. Now you get to jump even further forward as US Army Esports are running straight through the Hares. The Hares served up for dinner as it's a double kill to one of the few champions you did not want to go to. HanJin, 3-0-2.
Absolutely. I mean, it was unlucky because that Poppy, if they would have gotten their Q off, that would have killed Fox into that wall. Now, it probably wouldn't have changed a lot for the fight, except that they would have gotten a kill out of it. But because they win this skirmish and because they brought this Nautilus up, they get to take the second round of grubs, and that means it's going to be 3 for 3 for both sides. As Smolder ults the wave, just trying to clear it, and Dragon is going to come up here shortly in 10 seconds. So, because of that, they with Orianna now roaming down, they don't even get to trade for Dragon.
Everything is going the way of US Army Esports. And remember, they're the composition that we talked about, needing to kind of get ahead, needing a strong early game to help compensate for that Smolder. Normally, if you run a Smolder, you are more or less conceding a lot of the early game. You know, some of the objectives you just can't fight for, where a normal ADC might be able to apply some pressure. Instead, they're just winning out on top side, straight up. You know, LoserQLegend 2-0-2, now able to take over this Poppy. Poppy not going to enjoy the mid to late, or will enjoy the late, but maybe not the mid. And HanJin, of all champions that you need to utilize to kill the Jinx, to kill the Azir quickly, you got him 3 kills, already has that Kraken Slayer. You are going to be decimating people so nicely. Fox, even with the WQ combo, or QW combo, it's brutal from the Orianna going into that raw damage.
Yeah, and you can see that even though GitCat does have those 2 deaths and going up into the Renekton, they can trade relatively evenly still because of their shield that they can get occasionally. Now, they are going back in, and I don't know if you actually want to opt into a lot of these as GitCat, but they are choosing to.
And you're eating a lot of damage just also to try and deny any sort of fight on the other side, as that's going to be Fanng drawing away, but a huge shockwave lands on 3. No real follow-up, so Fox just needs to leave. However, I don't think that's going to work. Another knockup as Fox goes down, and that will be Arctic Hares going ahead and grabbing their first AFH. For a chance. GitCat, though, danger abound as the Keeper Verdict just denies LoserQLegend a chance in. Flash is available. If you wait for the shield, you could try and jump in if you have the spell real. I don't think you're going to force it, though. Dragon currently being taken by Evil Lobster.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really good fight on the bot side, especially for this Jinx, who needed to start scaling a little bit because the rest of the team wasn't doing so hot. Getting that first kill really made it so they can start to chain some of these in. You could see that they had to back off and actually give Dragon over to the team who had no pressure on the map.
And HanJin trying to help out, trying to get the rest of the team, but this is a bot lane that has not exactly been in the lead, so HanJin is actually going to get really punished here, and shutdown goes the way of Evil Lobster. I would have liked to seen that go the way of BrannyFan. That was an easy gimme, but needless to say, still a win of back for the side of Arctic Force Hares.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a double kill going over to the Azir and then a shutdown going onto the Vi. Yes, we would like to see that on the Jinx, obviously, but getting this Vi a little bit more tanky early on isn't always a terrible thing because they are going to be diving onto this Smolder and need to shut him down. I liked what they did. It actually, because of their ult, actually saved Jordan Bot from dying because they were really close to death. It knocked him back and it forced the Viego to run away so they wouldn't get locked down in the middle of it and give a kill over to the Jinx. That actually, because of that, Jordan Bot lived and didn't give over a kill on their end.
It's these little things that are making the moments, and I mean, to come back from a 5-0, normally we would say that's pretty much disaster in a bottle. You are pretty much back. You even take control of the gold, and this composition that you did build for that late game is gonna start reaching there. Andromeda already reaching that Nashor's Tooth, gonna be outputting a decent amount of power, able to hard trade back with Fox. Main thing though, we got to keep track of that Smolder. We'll try and get you an update on how many stacks they currently have. I think right now you're reaching that threshold of about 90 to 95. Maybe that's a little bit too much. I think I'm giving it 2 out of a bird. But
Yeah,
see how it
just a
goes.
little bit.
LoserQLegend in the top as well. 2-0-2 wants to make an impact.
Absolutely, and you can see just how little damage they do to this Poppy now in these short trades where usually Renekton does really well, but because of those plated steel caps and the bombies, they actually don't do as much damage as they normally would. So it really really favors Poppy in those matchups because of the Q, because whenever Renekton goes in, they're just getting a QE to the face just like that, and it doesn't allow them to actually get off a lot of damage early on like they want to.
I mean, the early damage is coming in from Evil Lobster. 1-1-1 already has that spear pointed at the support. A rocket from downtown as the first tower is taken. Will be granting another kill to Andromeda. This is the side of Arctic Force Hares starting to scale up. A lot of gold headed into the mid and ADC position.
Yeah, and now you can see a dive being set up topside with the Herald. GitCat is in an unfortunate position that because of this, they might actually die.
I mean, they could, but I think they're doing quite well in trying to stave off death. And I mean, they took a lot of time, decent amount of resources being used here. Of course, with the possible charge, again, it looks like HanJin wanted nothing to do with the second tower either, because there was a chase in the mid lane. Fox was getting run out of the lane. Multiple members were joining in from the side of Arctic Forest Hares. With that driving ability, it's going to be situated into that mid. But overall, good dive, good setup from the side of US Army Esports.
Absolutely. And Poppy, even though they're 0-3 and 0, they're still going to be useful later on in the game. You don't have to worry too much. It's just at what point do they get tanky? So the later on that is, the better it is for the side of US Army, but it is an eventuality that will happen sooner rather than later. And it's can you end before then? Because this Renekton is going to struggle heavily, as well as this Nautilus will. So getting to that point, getting in front of this Poppy ahead of time is super important, and they're doing it well. It's can they keep up this pressure on this Poppy so that they don't get tanky?
Gotta stay ahead of the curve, gotta stay in front and ensure that this lead that you have in certain districts and lanes will be adjusted. At the current moment, lane allocations have brought the bot lane into the mid lane into bot, top lane into bot, and bot lane into mid. So, you know, a little do-si-do and a tango leaves everyone a little bit wanting, as junglers are also trying to even up where they want to go. Evil Lobster sitting on top of a blocked out ward. And everyone's just kind of chasing for that potential. The rotates as well, coming in from Arctic Forest Hares, used for this dragon. It may not be the most impactful, but indirectly, well, I would say directly seen, is a massive healing skill. It is the Ocean Soul to play for.
Absolutely. This is probably this is probably the second most impactful soul that we can get this game that can really turn whether or not a team can win out or if they lose because of just the sheer amount of healing that you get. And it looks like GitCat takes the Minion Expressway out as the fight happens.
That's going to be a big kill. BrannyFan coming back pretty hard here. Top side again. It is GitCat to lose, but guess how many other kills are happening on the other side of the map? It is 2 granted. Evil Lobster grabbing another, and more plate and tower or gold handed over to BrannyFan. Even the assists now are starting to bulk up this ADC, already 2 items deep.
2 items deep in a 50 CS lead over this Smolder is absolutely massive. They're kind of just running this bot lane harder than what you would want to see from the Smolder lane. Smolder does still need to be slightly even for anything to happen, and they are falling farther and farther behind. And you can see how the Renekton wants to play in these fights, and they just can't quite do it because of this Vi, because of this Rel, and because of this Azir.
It's not going to be pretty. We need to see a little bit more oomph out of the side of US Army. The Giraffe seemed okay, and I know you were forced into a tough spot with the Renekton. It's still quiet, right? You have a HanJin who is 5-1-2, but no one really wants to help frontline. At the time, Fanng is still having to run interference, and I mean, that's kind of the saving grace for this team, is having that ability to dive, have that ability to blow someone up. If you don't even attempt to do so, it's going to be a problem. So, getting into things, we're about 19 minutes into the game, only, you know, 1 tower a piece, not too bad. Where do we see things breaking out here? Do we actually see US Army make the next first move, or do we actually see, well, I say that as we do get a little bit of an invade. Fanng eaten up here as JordanBot tries to get a roll down, but these are 2 slightly tanking members that are drawn into the forest, and the forest eats them up. LoserQLegend TPing in from the backside, catching out a little bit of BrannyFan, and you're going to get sliced up. Ghost goes out. The Jinx is going to try and hold and keep his verdict, keeps everyone safe. Because of that, though, Evil Lobster is on their own. GitCat still trying to run interference, but there's not much more you can do. And GitCat, remember, is the 0-4 member. You are running for your life as a stun on top of a blast cone. We'll draw him right back. Twinkerbelle granted a kill, and it looks like the US Army Esports here in game 1 starting to claw back after losing their early lead.
Absolutely, and that's exactly the fight that they needed to take. They split up BrannyFan from Evil Lobster and JordanBot, caught them out, and then you can see still the Renekton did struggle to get onto BrannyFan. Even though BrannyFan didn't have flash, you had the Vi ult, and that stopped a lot of what they were trying to do. But since you pushed BrannyFan out of that fight, they couldn't output the damage that they needed to in order to win. And that's what allowed them to actually start to scale into that fight, get the smolder there, and start to sweep it.
It just feels good. Very nice pickups, little pieces before. And it's crazy enough to think that at 10-7, we are only 600 gold difference. It is crazy to think. And again, it goes back to that CS lead. So as the teams start making plays around the map, we got to keep eyes on that gold dragon in about 2.5. I know Baron's on the table, but it's not really going to be that major objective to be played for just yet. Still be interesting to watch as the lane allocations have granted Army Force Hares, and she has to push out all the lanes.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because of these rotations, getting these objective controls always starts with pushing out your lanes and making sure that those are on the opponent's side of the map. Now, the next step is always vision. You can see some shallow vision being placed by them. I want to see a little bit deeper vision as well before they try to go for this. It is in a minute 48, so it does take a little bit of time for them to place this. As you can see, Rel did place another deeper one. It's all about trying to see where is the other team coming from so we can set up a play around that or burn it fast enough. And with that, you need more wards than that, especially with how close these team fights are.
Any vision will be appropriate. You'll be happy to have it, happy to use it. If you can, of course. That's the other side of it. For right now, though, all the vision will just be dropped down as the dragon is taken quietly. Well, hopefully being taken quietly here in a minute. I mean, if you have that much vision, you should know if anyone's going to be knocking on your door. LoserQLegend, though, running a little interference, 2-1 and 3, hasn't really been able to find much more, but still being a menace in the game. I'm curious to see how this is going to play out. Next dragon seems like what everyone's kind of going for.
And I like the lane matchups that US Army Esports is opting into. They put the Orianna into the Poppy because Renekton was really struggling into it. And the Renekton into the Zir just allows the Renekton to scale up a little bit because there's no kill pressure for either one of those. You can get poked out by the Renekton if you don't play it right, but because the Azir also doesn't want to get within melee range because they will then lose, they don't have any kill pressure to force upon you either. So I like what they've done to try to get pressure somewhere on the map.
Now, we're just seeing Fox try and be stealthy. I mean, this is quiet. We have to give credit. Both the teams are playing very calmly. No one's making an exasperated move, and the times that we haven't really been like 1v1s or explosiveness. It's just been testing the waters. No one's really gotten any too far out or overreaches. And even in those fights we watched, that's where a main bulk of the deaths come. Both teams kind of coming together and being brutal. Instead, they're just sitting here. Dragon now third to the pocket of Arctic Forest Hares. And I don't really like giving these for free. I'm surprised we're not seeing a challenge anywhere else.
Yeah, I was surprised. It looked like they might have been trying to set up a dive topside onto the Poppy, and they just didn't get it off in time. But now they're being pressured mid, and you can actually, as we see now, getting collapsed on.
Oh, well, the collapse is coming in, but the shockwave hurts quite a bit more. Even Lobster and Jordan Bot not allowed to stay. And that's the power of this 1-1 and 7 Orianna. You mentioned it. That early game power is still striking very true with the Bloom as well as the Sarah's Embrace completed. These are two hard-hitting items. And Evil Lobster is not exactly going pure tank or anything like that. You got HP, but the HP is shredded very quickly. You can see the power, the stat checking, it feels like is getting there. Everyone kind of testing the limits of how far they want to go. But no one wants to break over that threshold that is very much necessary if you want to start steamrolling this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little bit disappointed in the Vi build, I'll be honest. I don't think you needed to go for damage. The tankier you are right now, the better it is, because really, you just need to rely on your Jinx and Azir to output the damage. You don't need to be doing it because your Jinx and Azir will do more. And so trying to go for the Sundered Sky build, I just don't think is necessary, and I think it's actually putting your entire team at a weaker state overall.
You don't want to do that. But of course, at the current moment, it's not exactly being a drag. Might be later on, but we'll see. Still relatively quiet. This mid lane tower has been being chipped away at for, I want to say, the last couple of minutes. They've tried, and even Fanng knows it. It's a consistent push and pull scenario where no one really seems to push too hard. However, Andromeda might be the one flash over the wall as Fox stays safe. Now a dive underneath the Azir tower isn't going to really do much, as HanJin is more than out of danger's way.
Yeah, I'm gonna question that play a little bit just because it's 2v1. You're not gonna get the Orianna kill there, even with your flash shuffle. So I'm very concerned about why they're doing that. When you now have blown flash, you don't have it for the next upcoming fight around this Ocean Soul because you're at Soul Point. That flash is way more necessary in that fight than it is in a situation where you're gonna go down anyways.
You need that summoner spell. You need to keep yourself safe. You need to play smart. And you need to play cautiously. HanJin starting to look like a monster. 2.5. This is a build that we did expect after that Kraken Slayer. You get tanky. You get annoying. You get very, very unkillable if played in the right direction. 2.5 items now on Fox. I mean, with Dragon currently being situated, how do we find an entry point for Arctic Forest Hares? I know they're the ones that want this objective, but I mean, they're not exactly in a great position to do so, down about 2k. How would you, if you were their coach, really look at it? How would you have them approach this attempt at getting a soul? Is it just sling your jungler and pray, or do you actually try and 5v5?
I think they actually have an option to 5v5, as it looks like they might actually be having to defend against a Baron attempt from US Army Esports right now.
This feels a little bit scary. I know it's getting shredded quickly, but you can see the Keeper's already coming out here and knocks two away, so the Baron is slowed, but no one else really able to follow up behind, especially since Andromeda is still farming on the spot side. Flash away, GitCat cannot allow themselves to get hooked. You want to allow that Azir enough time to push, and that's why you can see the rest of US Army Esports trying to play for this Baron. They know their ways of getting pushed on. But now it looks like you might even give it up a little bit. Baron dropped down to 10k. Evil Lobster was looking to push mid, and now I'm not sure what exactly is going to happen. Arrested Collapse coming in. Shockwave only going to land on one, so Branny only having to worry about one. Baron is going to go down, though, and now you sound the retreat. I'm not sure anyone really wants this as the Execute is online. Twinkerbelle ready to shred through, and US Army Esports collapsing in on the rest of Arctic Force Hares. You don't like where this is going. That's going to be kill number one, but the slice, the dice, the chip, and the nom finishes off the Jinx as it's a dominating shutdown for LoserQLegend.
Yeah, that's absolutely what you did not want to happen. And you can see exactly how important these Nautilus hooks are. You can see that Jinx was actually very beautifully spacing this Renekton, and just the Poppy flash out, and then because they stepped up just a little bit too much by the Jinx, they got hooked by that Nautilus, and that swung the fight in their favor. Otherwise, Jinx could have taken out the Nautilus, and then the Renekton, and then swept the rest of it, because they still had Vi.
It hurts. Hurts to see it. But what can you do? Where does it decide to go? That is my question. Where do you go from here? There was a decent amount behind, but now things are getting a little bit out of control. You could try and steal this away. Evil Lobster wants to, and that's why you see an immediate roam up from the Smolder and then some. Just no, we are getting this dragon. You do not have a choice. 5 dragons deep, and things are looking a bit too painful. Not only that, Evil Lobster only level 13. Vastly far behind a level 16 Viego.
Yeah, this Viego's been farming up a storm. You can see 233 to 181. They also have gotten a lot of lane XP just from moving between them at the right time. So they got a lot of lane XP, plus just the sheer amount of kills, assists, and farm helps them get to that level 16 point. I think they're the highest in the game besides Orianna. So they're really putting out a lot. So it's Orianna, Azir, and Viego are the highest points of the game, highest levels in the game. And this Viego is really running it for his team. And the power that you can just see, now they get to walk into this jungle. The one thing that the side of US Army can't do is give any shutdowns. Giving any shutdowns over to this Jinx and allowing them to get back in could be detrimental. The matter of these dragons, if you take a bad fight around this next dragon and give them soul, could absolutely swing it away from you, even if you are stronger.
I mean, you give Soul, Ocean Soul, over to a Poppy, over to a Rel, over to Evil Lobster. All 3 of these champions love to get in your face and also have kits that help with sustain. Not exactly killing, but sustain, and that's why we can see this push from US Army Esports. Just, hey, we'll take a free inhibitor, no worries behind it. Maybe they can even collapse on the mid lane. Take a look at this track record. That is, I believe, Twinkerbelle. No, it is going to be a BrannyFan and Evil Lobster trying to run to safety. Fox wants to cut him off. BrannyFan in a bad spot. You don't have Flash, you don't have Ghost. This is an easy rundown. Take a look at where they're running. They're running away from the base because you don't really have a choice. I can't even blame you for trying to do that. Evil Lobster getting chunked out now in a 1v1. Depth charge just to help out. BrannyFan is going to fall. Smite comes in. A final auto attack will take it. HanJin is godlike. And that just might seal the deal. What we had earlier was only a 2K lead. Now it's exploded to an 8K lead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, my one nitpick is that he didn't give it to Smolder, but I don't think it's going to matter in the end because I think they can just push for end here. They have a wave pushing in bot. They're going to have a wave here, and there's not much that the side of Arctic Force Hares can do.
This was by far one of the quieter games it felt like, and yet the kills speak otherwise. It was not explosive kills. It was not crazy team fights. It was methodical. It felt like clockwork. If one team was set up, they were ready to go. If the other was set up, they would fight too. And I mean, right now we're looking at about 2 minutes on either major objective, only spaced out by about 12 seconds. I do expect the side of Arctic Force Hares to try their best. Everyone give up. LoserQLegend. No one likes you. No one likes you. Didn't fist bump. I'm sorry. That's the rules. No one likes you anymore.
Yeah, no, it's really something. You got to have that team synergy and get those fist bumps going. But you can see them, it's kind of marched down mid here. They have supers on both side lanes, so you're going to have perma pressure there, and it's all about can you actually not die in this 5v5 because there is still an availability for the side of Arctic Force Hares to win this fight. And if you play it wrong, they will, and this Jinx can just run a map very fast.
That's why they're going to try and play it slow. Shockwave lands, though. That's not as slow as you want. Andromeda is going to go into the Zanya's form, but the rest of the team might be able to come in. How much damage are they actually going to lay down? As HanJin is legendary. Remember, you can assassinate whoever you want. LoserQLegend in the back, watching as the rest of the team is able to fight it out. And GitCat trying to run for your life. BrannyFan is alive, but the rest of the team is gone. Deleted, destroyed, decimated. And one final execution should do it. A Q to end their life. It's a triple kill for HanJin, but it's an ace for the side of US Army Esports.
Yeah, absolutely. And they took that fight at the perfect time. Jinx was not there for that fight. As you can see, they came in late. So overall, they weren't in that fight. There was no damage. And you can see just how close it was, even without the Jinx. If the Jinx was there, it was going to be a lot, even more closer where the side of Arctic Force could have won that fight. So perfect timing by them to realize where the champions were and when they needed to engage.
US Army Esports might have gotten a bye in week number 1, but a forfeit win. Since then, they have earned their record at 2-0 so far in series score. They're looking to try even more so. They are looking to try and hammer in another win, as the first game goes their way in pretty dominating fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a slow, methodical. They were down sometimes, but they always had a plan in place. You could see they shut down this Poppy so the Poppy couldn't get ahead because they realized if that Poppy was ahead, there's nothing that they could do. So very well done by them to execute on their game plan and clean it out with a win.
I like it a lot. And for the side of the Hares, what do you think they need to do? Because on paper, the comp didn't really look that bad.
Yeah, it looked good. I think they just need to clean up a little bit of their vision. They gave over a few too many kills on that top side with a couple of those dives and ganks. And I think if they just manage to clean that up a little bit, don't let the top jungle duo get so far ahead, I think they have a slightly better shot at it. You can see on the bot side of the map that Jinx was super far ahead early on, and they need to play through that if they are just going to leave the top side to their own devices. So you have to choose what to do, and they kind of just like floundered around the map, it felt like, during the mid game and didn't really do anything with the lead that they had.
I think that's a fair assessment. We'll see if they can clean it up for game number 2 or if US Army Esports are going to come in and sweep another series. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with some more Infinity League here with Crunch Time GG. Alrighty, and we are here ready to go because, of course, game number 2 is going to be action packed. We are still here watching US Army Esports take on the likes of the Arctic Force Hares. In game number 1, it felt like US Army Esports, while it was a little bit slow in the mid game, felt like they were still pretty much in control all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. It never really felt like they were ever out of it. They had some moments where they were definitely behind, but they were always trying to make plays and they were doing it quite effectively. So I'm excited to see what they decide to do coming up with this next draft and why they decide to do what they do because they had a good draft, though it was harder to execute. I think they executed on it beautifully. They came in with a game plan and they kept at it, and it won them the game. But for Arctic Force Hares, they had a really easy draft to go through and to execute, and they just didn't quite seem to get it going. So, are they going to switch it up, or are they going to try to run it back in a similar fashion, or maybe they just try for a salty run back altogether? I'm excited for this next game. I'm hoping for an explosive one because last time was a little bit of a slow one.
It was one that we watched and said, hey, Army Esports, you could probably close out the game a little bit quickly. They had the power, they had the right moves, and that's something that we want to see out of excellent teams. It's a little nitpicky, call it for what you will, but I will nitpick. I think U.S. Army Esports, they had the lead, they had good control, they could have closed it out a lot, a lot quicker. But for right now, we'll see if the champion bands do change up at the current moment. It looks like it's staying more of the same. Still pretty much a stock standard. Of course, that third ban could be the difference. You still got 5 seconds, more than enough time to kind of wait around here. What is it going to be? Last time it was a Silas. This time it's the Vi. Okay, saying.
And then the
And it's double
Viego.
jungle ban. I like it. Both HanJin and Evil Lobster being forced to change things up.
Absolutely. Now, Smolder is still on the table, though I wasn't a huge fan of it, so I'm honestly hoping they don't pick it again. I think that they just fell too far behind in the laning phase. It is a safe pick, nonetheless, so I could see why they pick it, just because if they're it shores up a lot of weaknesses that an ADC player might have, because you just have to scale to 225, then you can kind of just take over a fight. But they elect to go for Xin Zhao, so this time, Arctic Force could go for that Smolder and turn it upside its head and make this series go 1-1 with it. But again, that's up to them and what they decide to play. They had a very good showing on the Jinx, and I would be happy to see that again for sure.
I would say the smolder's right, but again, we talked about how you can dive that smolder, how you can get on that smolder and just make their life really, really bad. So I don't know if you get into a Xin Zhao, knowing Hanjin loves being aggressive. The Trundle, I think, is an appropriate pickup here. You want to deny a lot of that extra armor and magic resist. The problem is picking it up so early, and you don't really see another tank. I'm guessing you're trying to flex this between, but it does lock in US Army Esports into what I would say is a non-take standard, unless you're saying screw it. The Trundle's not going to be an issue. We can still pick a tank Ash to come in as another flex.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have two flexes here, top and jungle for the Trundle, and Ash can go ADC or support. I like it. It still leaves you a lot of different opportunities. I'm expecting this Trundle to go into the jungle only because top lane it doesn't do as well. Yeah, it has fantastic turret taking potential, but from what we've seen from US Army Esports, it's just not going to have the same effect as if it's in the jungle and taking a lot of these objectives that it also is very good at taking. Now, this Kaisa is an interesting pick. It is a very strong mid and late game ADC that can take over a fight and can pick off a lot of these stragglers that tend to run away. So the Jinx survived a lot, mainly because she was on these outskirts of these fights and nobody could really get on top of her. But with this Kaisa, if they get any sort of plasma on her, she can kill her and die and kill off the Jinx. And then with the Nautilus, I mean, that Nautilus was very, very good last game.
It was, however, Twinkerbelle, if we remember last time on the Smolder, was down quite a bit in the CS department. So on this Kai'Sa, you do have to be a little bit more aggressive. You have to be a little bit more proactive to actually get your lead. If you're not, falling behind on a Kai'Sa is not the same as falling behind on a Smolder. You don't really have that really, really strong late game presence. Arctic Force Hares are living up to their name, bringing the Arctic, bringing the Freljord into the mix, bringing the cold weather to their side.
Yeah, And with this Braum pick, I'm not a fan of Braum right now. I just think that as a support, you need to have some sort of go in engage, especially in the comp that they're drafting. They don't. You have an Ash Arrow. That's your only engage right now, and you need to have something more coming from the mid and top. Now you're putting a lot of pressure onto these two players to be the engage, where and Braum kind of doesn't do anything well right now. You have the shield, but against the side that U.S. Army has put together right now, it's really not going to be that effective, except against like a Kaisa Q and W. I'm just not a fan of this Braum pickup here at all.
I mean, we'll see if it bites them back, but I gotta agree, there are some stipulations that just don't seem to be being hit. It feels like they're playing a little bit too safe as well. It feels like they're saying, hey, we don't want to fight as much. We want to farm up. We want to scale. We'll wait for you to come to us. Not a terrible thought, just not very good. It's a hard line to play for. Right now, though, the bans do go out. It looks like top lane and mid were both hit on either side. One top, one mid ban on either end. At that range, though, you got to decide, is that Trundle going to be still flex? You hide your top lane pick towards the end? No, they're actually honing in on that mid lane. For the side of Arctic Force, Hares saying, yo, we got to keep that a blind and Udyr being locked in, that can still be flexed between the Trundle and jungle, or the jungle Trundle area. Still keeping with the same vein though, a little bit of cold, a little bit of silliness.
Yeah, absolutely. Udyr does do well in the top lane and in the jungle, so it puts U.S. Army Esports in an awkward position because you don't really want to take a tank, but you also don't want to take a carry. And this Renekton coming through doesn't do well into either of those. I'm struggling here because Renekton's a great early game pick, but going into Udyr and Trundle, you lose out on damage against the Trundle, and you just can't keep up with the sustained damage that Udyr can put out. So you kind of lose no matter what, especially if you decide to go in. And if you decide to play it more passively, then why did you pick the Renekton?
I think that's really true. The other side of it, at the same time, is you're sitting there going, I think LoserQLegend played really well on the Renekton last time. It wasn't great. It wasn't great, but it was better than we expected against the Poppy. So, hey, you saw the power. The Ziggs blind pick, though, this is going to be messy. I love having that extra AoE, the wave clear, and the denial tools with the slows. You can actually keep a decent chunk of the enemy at bay. Of course, will it have strong impact? That's the other side of it because it's an Ari to come out here. Not the Lissandra that I was like half expecting to go with the theme. It's a nice early game to mid game bridge with the power to chase after with the Trundle with the Udyr and
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the nice thing with this Ziggs is we saw last game, they set up a lot of dives around bot and top, and this Ziggs can actually affect that from halfway across the map. They just have to walk into river halfway, throw out their ult, and it gives a decent chunk of damage that allows them to potentially secure that dive or not. But against this Ahri, you really have to, you're going to be spending a lot of mana in your Qs and Es to clear out this wave, and it's gonna your goal is of course to take that mid lane tower before Ari can really get going, and with that W it is very useful, but this Ari's gonna have a lot of roam potential if the Ziggs does not get going.
I'm very, very excited. All right, Ice, you know what I'm going to ask you here. We're into game number 2. Is there a side that you are very much looking towards to have that advantage from draft specifically?
I have to go for U.S. Army Esports here, which is a shift from last time. It's purely because one, their execution on their comp last game looked really well, and from the side of Arctic Force Hares this game, it's too safe. You have you have a Braum that doesn't do anything well in the support, and an Ashe that actually doesn't put out a lot of damage. It's a very low damage comp coming through from the side of Arctic Force Hares, which is going to make it very difficult for them in these mid to late game fights against a Ziggs, against a Renekton, and against a Kaisa. And then you have Xin Zhao and Nautilus disrupting your backline, and Braum doesn't do well at blocking either of those. So I struggle heavily. They're going to have to look for some excellent flanks coming from this Ari, coming from this Trundle, and Udyr is going to have to just play absolutely perfectly against this Renekton for anything to go to the side of Arctic Force Hares.
Let's see if they can pull it off. Right now, U.S. Army Esports are looking for their third series win here in the Infinity League and definitively put themselves in the upper side of the bracket. A win here would secure a spot in the playoffs. And at that point, as you said before, it's all about the seeding. We'll go to a quick break and come back with game number 2 and see if it is going to be the final game or if Arctic Forest Hares will go ahead and try and push for a game 3. You don't want to miss it, so don't go anywhere. are live here with game number 2. And at the current moment, US Army Esports staying on that blue side here in game number 2. It's looking good. Honestly, the composition outside of the Renekton screams very team fight centric. It's going to be very explosive in more ways than one. Fox on their signature. I saw in chat apparently that this is a signature that Fox loves to draw out. I'm expecting big things from the Army Esports side for the Arctic Force Hares though. This is do or die situation. You're already 1-1 in series score. You need a dub here if you want to keep yourself in comfortable position for playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because this is such a short season, any loss is gonna be profound on that score line, and even more so once you hit that second one, which is what they're fighting against right now. Uh, U.S. Army Esports has won. They got that bye or that forfeit from week 1, and then won last week, so they're sitting in a good spot. But for Arctic Force Hares, losing this one could put their entire season into jeopardy when it comes to playoff time.
I hate that fact. But at the same time, it's a reality of competition. It's the fact that, hey, you gotta get a dub on the board. And right now, this is one way to do it. You go ahead and get a little cheeky invade here. GitCat is, of course, going to see the blue buff being started. And I actually kind of like this. You talked about the difference of power in the Renekton and the Udyr. You can go ahead and get a little bullying down. You can actually float pretty easily, and LoserQLegend burning inside of this zone. The fact that the Conqueror stacks are still up means that LoserQ is not going to come back to lane in a comfortable position. I would say pretty big chunk. Also allows Evil Lobster perfect reign of supremacy on this bot side. 2 camps taken. Unless HanJin reads this, you're going to lose out heavily in the camp count.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to initiate vertical jungling here, and there's no way to really know because they didn't place any wards. And so it looks like he is going to go off of intuition and say, yeah, let's go for some vertical jungling as LoserQ is... Ooh, that's close. Woo!
That's huge. Oh boy, LoserQLegend getting a dub on the board already. We mentioned
And
this Renekton is a little bit scary in
yeah,
terms of like picking it into the Udyr. You got first blood. All bets are off the table now.
yeah, absolutely. This is the difference between champ skill and hands diff, right? You can see he even flashed at the end to guarantee to actually deny the return kill to GitCat. So it's very good for this Renekton. They're up in CS. They got that first blood. And so they are actually able to get some early MR that's going to help them trade into GitCat and maybe even get another kill.
I could see it. What we are going to see, though, is Andromeda getting jumped on. Good charm to land, but there is no flash, meaning you're just dead. I don't even know where Andromeda lost the flash. I'm guessing from earlier gank, but it's just that easy. Pickups all around as we're seeing a repeat of game number 1 early kills to US Army.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see the empowered Q putting in work for LoserQLegend to make sure that they can stay healthy enough. GitCat is already out of mana and having to walk away. Having already burned that TP, they're going to struggle into this lane from here on out.
Arctic Force Hares have to be aware of this. This is not working in their favor. This chase, though, on the bot side might be the big one. Good jump in very quickly. Andromeda coming down to help out. Looks like Fanng will be the sacrifice here as twinkerbelle is going to try and run away. Good sidestep on that charm. Big damage all the way back. That'll be a 4 proc with the concussive as HanJin there for a little bit moral support. So once again, quite literally game 1. Top, jungle, and mid feeling like it floats out towards the side of US Army. Bot side struggling but yielding into the other direction. Cat getting a massive shield off and healing up, rightfully so. Still though, on the back foot, not feeling great.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to get even worse once Renekton gets their ultimate. A good pillar from Evil Lobster to try and get this Ziggs. Doesn't look like the minion wave was going to allow a good charm to come off, so a good W by Fox to get out of there. You can really see the comfort levels coming through on this champion as top lane is just looking a little worse for wear than what you really want to see coming from this Udyr.
I mean, I'm sitting here going, what the heck is going to happen right now? I'm interested to see how it breaks down. I mean, like, this is, again, this is manufactured. Almost the exact same. The difference, Grubs are still up and Dragon's still up. I think that's the only difference in game number 1. So I'm just sitting here, you know, wondering what is going to change. We did say for U.S. Army, if they're the ones in the lead, we want to see them push those limits. And they might even get that chance. Take a look at what's happening inside of that river. It's a push-up LoserQLegend seeing the roam up from Evil Lobster and Jordan. Well, that's because Fanng is going to start running interference. The rotate in is helping out. Fox now running interference on Andromeda. And it looks like they're actually going to fight this out. This does surprise me a little bit. Andromeda getting bumped into the rest of the team, but Fox now zoned away. Gets around the pillar, thankfully, now flashing to the rest of the team. One grab is singing, that's more than enough. Now they can fight it out. Evil Lobster, not in a good position, does have flash to stay away. Andromeda going to try and hold off on the end, but look at the HP bars, burning down a little bit low. HanJin going to fall, and that might be the win that they need. Fox trying to run in the other direction, but you're just dead. You're late game scaling, you're fighting it early. It's a dub all the way around for Arctic Force Hares as they take 2 kills, 3 total out of that engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what we need to see from Arctic Force Hares, is taking these early fights, pushing down the side of US Army Esports, and then scaling off of that, but not letting off the gas pedal. Both teams have to be on this gas pedal in order to win this game, because if US Army gets going later on, it's not going to be pretty, because the Ashe just won't be able to keep up in the damage department compared to this Kaisa.
It's something to really watch for. Of course, Twinkerbelle kind of cutting their own damage down, went for the Cole early, picking up saying, hey, I'm not going to hit those item breakpoints as quickly as I would normally like unless I get kills funneled to me. Another thing that we also watch for, we want to see if AFH are able to actually push the game. One of our big concerns, they got a couple leads in game number 1. They really stalled out towards that mid-game. They just kind of wandered around. They didn't try and force any lane. They didn't try and use their lead to any advantage. So right now, it's about a 1.1k lead. Nothing crazy, but if they get a larger lead, I would say about 2 to 3k. I really do want to see him start being explosive. I want to see him get in the face, and I want to see him start pushing down some of those towers.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm excited to see, because of the first drag was a Hex Tech. I can't quite tell what this next dragon is gonna be, unfortunately. But
that would be Chemtech, wouldn't it?
it probably is. I know that there's some UI bugs that make it, so I'm assuming it's probably a Chemtech Soul at this point, or a Chemtech Dragon. So we still have Infernal Soul, Ocean Soul, and Mountain Soul on the table. All 3 are great for both teams, so they're really going to fight heavily for it.
Do you not consider the Cloud Dragon a dragon?
No, I don't. That is not a good
Oh, that's
soul.
mean. Oh, that's mean, Ice. Oh, you're tearing my heart out.
That is not a soul. That is a sad sad existence for this game. As
That's
it looks
too
like
real.
GitCat might be get caught out here.
It's
and
just
goes
death.
down.
We're talking about dragons. Meanwhile, the Phoenix is burning. GitCat losing out on the top lane, and LoserQLegend getting another kill. By the way, has been sitting on this Doran Shield and Null Magic Mantle for ages. We saw that earlier after the first kill. It has been grand total about 5 to 6 minutes. You're going to have a nasty buy going back.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have a 20 CS lead, even though Udyr was proxying the wave. So you can see just how strong this Renekton is at this point, able to withstand a lot of what this Udyr was trying to put out, and then also getting a CS lead while being pushed under tower.
You can see it here. GitCat coming back with some peace, but in that bot side, arrow came out as soon as level 6 hit, but we were drawn over to this jungle side. Bot side, we're not too worried. HanJin, though, on the receiving end, not enjoying what's going down. Needs a smite, is able to grab it, but I think Evil Lobster still gets the buff, of course. Or no, the buff transfer. I keep forgetting if that happens or not. No, I don't know. Right now, still, Evil Lobster in the lead. This Trundle getting a lot of value right now.
Yeah, absolutely. This Ziggs really putting in a lot of effort. I got lost in the trading of the Ziggs into Ahri. Very good damage output by the side of the Ziggs to keep even and actually be ahead in that trade, even though the charm did land. Udyr proxying, again, I don't know if this is the play. You're just going to be handing over a lot of kills over to the other team.
I mean, maybe they can make it work. GitCat. Oh, no. Oh, no. To be fair, it's HanJin. Maybe you can kite out HanJin. I'm not sure. You're dancing hella well, though. Andromeda on the other side is able to pick up the kill. It is going to be a nice set of gold to get to HanJin. But the bot side dives, still landing twinkerbelle in a little bit of trouble. It looks like for AFH, they started to find the rhythm once again in the spot side, picking off the substitute ADC.
Yeah, now we need to see this bot side actually put in work and start not only taking tower but moving their power around the map and shutting down the rest of this team, because we did not see that last time, and it allowed the rest of the side of US Army Esports to scale up and take over the game.
Grubs once again in contention. Remember how this went? I think that's more than enough. You deny it into 4. So it's fine. Evil Lobster coming back to sadly take the 3rd and 4th. However, this is going to be the challenge. HanJin getting caught again. Concussive blows are real, and there's no way you can really do anything. The Crescent Guard is only going to keep you alive for so much longer. LoserQ in the back is a huge meta. Slice and dash away. Fanng able to grab 1. And now Andromeda going to have to run for their life. They don't have the Spirit Rush to get away. So it's just damage output to slow them down. Evil Lobster eating a lot of damage on the back end. It's a trade value. LoserQLegend forcing Jordan Bot into the respawn. But a 1-for-1 as HanJin starting to be a little bit exposed here. The Xin Zhao not doing exactly what they wish.
Yeah, they walked in to get that other smite when they didn't need to. Yeah, they got that 3rd grub, but they already had the 2. They didn't need to try to deny another one. There was going to be no grubs spawning from that. And now, because of that, they handed over another kill that they didn't need to. And so they're 2-3-1 this game, really showing a lot of a different look that isn't as strong as they were on the Viego. Good W from Fox to avoid the charm from Andromeda, forcing them back. Allowing them to actually pick up the rest of this wave and back. I think that's going to be a full item buy for them here.
I think it is as well. I was more just thinking about this fact. HanJin just, having a little bit of a tough time, but you're not really the main focus here right now. I think you are when you grab the Xin Zhao round 1 or B1. It was very much just kind of that safe factor. Fanng on the other side was hoping to be a safe factor. You're just run down. It is a Nautilus death for a 3rd time in this game.
Yeah.
The Xin Zhao is going to be used as that buffer to get into the backside, and then you're just kind of pumping out CC and blockage to allow Fox and LoserQLegend to actually get the value, I think. But it still feels bad. As a Xin Zhao, you're falling behind, and it just doesn't feel good. It also allows the other dragon to go the way of AFH, and it is going to be Mountain Soul. Mountain Soul to be played for. A little bit of tankiness around for everyone.
A nice, good quality soul for this game. That's what we like to see. I have great animosity towards that Cloud Soul.
You had it one too many times and you still the key games is all I'm hearing right now. It's just pain.
As a support, I see no use for it.
Why? You're a support, mate. I see it. I see it now. All right. Listen, I get it. On the top side, though, what I'm seeing is just burn damage here. LoserQLegend trying to stay their own with the Eclipse value. But in this mid lane, Fox, again with the satchel, keeping themselves safe. And for what it's worth, Fox has actually done quite a good job of keeping up with this Ahri and the amount of pressure that's been laid down. HanJin ganked once, and then Evil Lobster and Andromeda have been in their face pretty much the entire time. And yet Fox is still able to land some of these bouncing bombs, some of these satchels, and I'm excited to see how this mid to late game kind of rolls out.
Yeah, I mean, what you want out of this Ziggs is start to be able to take these turrets coming up here, especially once, I mean, you obviously want it before turret plates fall, but because they're going to be falling here in just a few seconds, it's going to be really important to start playing around this Ziggs, allowing them to start taking these turrets. Because of his satchel charge, he can take them a lot faster than a lot of other champions can. He might get caught out here, though, as nope, just another satchel charge. I always get baited by that, so it's interesting to see how Fox and the rest of US Army Esports decides to play around this, because if they play around this Ziggs well, they can actually destroy a lot of turrets faster than what the side of Arctic Force Hares can actually respond to.
It's true. There might be a little bit of oomph behind it. Fanng now walking in as HanJin joins the fight. Jordan gonna run interference here as his mid lane breaks out in a fight. Maybe neither side really wants, as GitCat is gonna come from the backside. TP a little bit late, but in comes twinkerbelle as well. Look at the mounting though. Again, Fox is just in their face, but it's too dead in the blink of an eye. Now they're gonna run away. Andromeda now stunned up. This is a problem. Q goes out. twinkerbelle is taken low, and it's stunned under the tower. The melting pot is real as this Korean barbecue for the team tonight. An ace for the side of AFH. But 3, a triple kill goes Fox's way. A small consolation prize as Arctic Force Hares feel very much like they just got a massive victory.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see that they are trying to set up for this Rift Herald fight on both sides, and whenever you roam up like that, and then U.S. Army Esports actually electing to go into that fight, sitting in that brush, trying to make something happen, and it started off decently well for them, but because they just don't have that tanky front line yet, this Ashe was able to put out just enough damage to start to burn them down. This Static Shiv putting in a lot of work to really cut them down is now a Triforce to follow that up. They are really indexing heavily onto attack speed and getting these slows out.
I mean, this is the on-hit build
Yeah.
for an Ashe. You are going to be striking very hard into the backs, and I mean, to give a lot of credit, we mentioned that U.S. Army Esports just looked better in game number 1. It felt like they were very in control, but we're seeing those inconsistencies come out here. Top side, even though LoserQLegend got the early kills, this Udyr, you talked about it, starting to outscale, starting to become a menace, starting to become a pain. The Trundle, by the way, this Flex Trundle that was picked up R1. That is crazy, by the way. Putting a lot of emphasis on that's your power pick. 3, 1, and 3. Looking great. Looking
Yeah.
powerful. Here's the deal. Will they actually stall out, though? That's my question. Are we going to see the likes of AFH stall themselves out?
Yeah, and that's what we need to see. This is Ziggs, and this Kaisa will become online very soon. This Ziggs already starting to, you can see the damage that they can output, but with this Kaisa, if they can get the fight that they want and stop a lot of the backline access that the side of AFH has, they can actually output a lot more damage into the tanks of AFH than AFH can put into theirs. So I want to see them continue to scale up, slow the game down like before, as we almost had an oopsie there. Make sure you have your driver's license, ladies and gentlemen, when you're trying to drive Rift Herald. It is not easy to do, but it's very important that you slow this game down on the side of U.S. Army Esports and let the
Uh-oh.
Ziggs put in work.
Oh. Yep. You got to give them time. Got to give the Ziggs time to scale up. You just finished Sarah's Embrace. You are now looking, I think, at a Cinder Bloom. You're looking
Yeah.
at a chance to kind of burn through extra players, and I think that's very appropriate. But the Dragon, again, this Mountain Soul that you could play for, that you could stack up, if you get 2, I feel like that automatically means 1 MR item cuts out a lot of what Fox wants to hang on to. So, TP from GitCat to get back to the top side. It's met by a TP from Fox. And this is a 2-piece that GitCat is not really going to be excited about. Bomb goes out. It's now 3 HanJin coming in to help out. And this is going to be a chance. You're putting a lot of emphasis to the top side. Look at the burn. Fox, though, eating a lot of damage, and a final bomb will not land. GitCat staying alive for so long. It's allowed time for twinkerbelle to get caught. And it looks like it's retribution. Yes, top side goes down, but you have to get out here, and you have to get back as mid lane is being pushed.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see how just tanky GitCat can be right now. And also with that Bramble Vest cuts out a lot of the healing that LoserQLegend and HanJin can do. You can see Fox tanked a little bit. I mean, they shuffled tanking of that tower aggro perfectly. But because of how much time it took, they almost lose this mid lane, and it looks like they might actually lose it, this mid lane tier 2. And that's really rough for them, only getting a kill, and not even that because it was traded back onto twinkerbelle. This is really rough for the side of U.S. Army Esports right now.
U.S. Army Esports, their composition, we know what they want to do. We just haven't seen it executed together. And I don't think it's really a massive fault to their own. They just haven't had the opportunity. twinkerbelle's still trying to stack up that tier that they had for a decent amount of time. Has illusions behind, so it's a lot more poke heavy than a normal trading pattern. And then you complete that minimune and you set yourself up and above. You still need that 2-item power spike. HanJin as well, 2 items a little bit tankier in the itemization. This entire time, it feels like everything for the side of U.S. Army is still building up. How long did they need to build for? Baron will be up in 20 seconds. Dragon in about 3 minutes. Ways off, but still something to look forward to. I'm excited. Gotta watch and see what the likes of AFH are wanting to do in this lull of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can look and see there's actually going to be a lot of AP coming through as it looks like Kai'Sa's going for the AP Kai'Sa poke build as well. Noticing that they just don't have the front to back that they want yet for like an AP or like a hybrid Kai'Sa build. So they're deciding to go for this full poke AP Kai'Sa build as Andromeda might get caught out here by LoserQLegend.
Gotta go ahead and burn that Spear Rush. It's gonna be okay though. LoserQLegend more than happy to hang on to that one. And then we've also talked about Andromeda a little bit, but Andromeda's actually done a decent job of roaming, getting that bullying factor down. But it is an Ari. Late game doesn't output as much as you would hope. It doesn't really have the oomph that you need. If you get the catch, that's great. But I am curious to see if they're still going to have that flank potential, if they're still going to find that ability to kind of catch out the opponent. I really am watching for this, as they are more on side lane cleanup duty, as the rest of the team is more looking to be the bully, be the annoying factor, be the kill squad that they want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And thinking about where both these teams stand right now, it it will probably go to you're hoping as the Arctic Force Hares that you can force a game three as Arrow just barely clips the Nautilus, but HanJin getting caught out again. Bad hook from Fanng. I mean,
I mean, you can re-engage. Maybe you can find something. Branny is going to go down as a flash in. And
ooh.
LoserQLegend, one of the strongest points, is going to turn around. It looks like they might have got it. Can they catch Evil Lobster? Evil Lobster has to flash away, and it looks like they have done a turn of a 1 for 2. Andromeda going to turn around. Final Q is not going to be able to kill him as Fanng lives with a literal sliver. And that is a turnaround, a forced turnaround for the side of US Army Esports. Oh, flash in, good charm, but Andromeda may be able to live. It looks like it's done. Fox may have pushed a little bit too far. Doesn't have the abilities. Flashes to try and get into enemy jungle, but the pillar keeps you zoned out. Another charm as you walk towards the opponent, and there are the final 2 kills that we are waiting for.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a really rough fight for the side of Arctic Force Hares, but because of the overextension by Twinkerbelle and Fox to get that mid lane turret, which they had to do, it did give a double kill over to Andromeda, or actually a kill over to Andromeda and to Evil Lobster. A great kind of wraparound by them to force that kill, to force that play to happen. Good flashes by Andromeda to really start that off. Now, as Arctic Force Hares are trying to close out this game, they are struggling a little bit because their comp doesn't quite have enough go-in potential. They just lack engage, right? So because of that, it does allow a lot of time for US Army Esports to scale, and you can see what happens when they get a fight that they want.
They need that perfect piece of the puzzle. Perfect engage, perfect catch, whatever you want. The arrow sometimes starts it off. Fanng having to run away. Jordan putting up that unbreakable wall early, but with it down, you might be shredded. GitCat coming in from the side, though. This is big. HanJin trying to hold for a little bit of interference. You use that Crescent Guard and you stay safe, and that might be enough time. GitCat gonna be slowly melted. LoserQ right into the middle, but you're getting shredded as well. Take a look. BrannyFan is fine, and it looks like they might have done it. However, a wait on the side as Andromeda comes in with a flank, and it's done. That's 2 to the Trundle. Evil Lobster being a truly evil lobster, melting through the opponent's Andromeda with a 1v1 kill on the side, killing spree for that RA. Now Twinkerbelle realizes they're in a dangerous scenario, gets underneath the tower, but the rest of the team is dead. What a flank, what a catch, what a fight from Arctic Force Hares.
Yeah, absolutely. What a fight that was. I mean, you said it perfectly. I mean, just starting it off with a hook from Fanng on the Braum, that is not what you should be doing. You had excellent hooks last game onto key targets. Braum is probably the last person that you want to be hooking here. He's kind of the frontline tank, and he's blocking all the rest of the damage from your comp that you need Twinkerbelle to be putting out onto this backline, and you're not giving them any opportunities to do so. And then the beautiful flanks from Andromeda, Evil Lobster, and GitCat to just get into that backline and clean it up was, I mean, almost to perfection. That's exactly what they need to be doing to force a game 3.
I think they've done more than try and force. At this point, they have opened the door themselves. There's no need for a battering ram or anything like that. They built the house. They're now walking in. And I feel it's very important to note, again, this is a first pick Trundle. And Evil Lobster really getting a feel-good champion. HanJin not having the game that they had before. Still plenty of game to play. 2.5 items on Fox, still looking for that burn, but Fanng getting caught.
Another
Again,
arrow hits.
Another death. There is no way out. And with a major objective up, without that Nautilus to run
They're just going
interference,
to
I
start
think
it.
this Baron is going a singular way.
Yeah, absolutely. This is theirs for the taking. It's a 4v5. Your Ziggs is actually going to try to TP in. I mean, you have an opportunity maybe, but Ari's going to match it. And I just don't think you have the damage right now. You just need to scale up more. And it does pull them off. It does delay it. But I think they're just going to turn right back onto it. Maybe?
I mean,
Oh,
they
no, they're
could.
electing not to. So, interesting choice. I think they could have forced there. They have the damage to burn it quickly with this Ashe and this Trundle. Electing not to, I think that they need to be a little bit more on the gas pedal.
I think so as well. This is one of the critiques that we had. These last few minutes felt like they had the lead, and granted, they still have it, but they're definitely not pushing it as far as I think they could. They almost broke into the mid lane. Their fights are not exactly as persistent, insistent, or having that kind of level of anxiousness that we wish it had. At this moment, they're more comfortable just kind of going out to their sides, and I want to see them be able to finish it. I don't want to see them give time and opportunities over to the side of U.S. Army to kind of come back into this game. The longer you wait, the more Fox is going to scale up, the more we're going to see a nasty brutish force, the more that Mega Inferno Bomb will be able to whittle you down to really deal a chunk of your HP bar. Pings going out here. It is going to be U.S. Army to say, hey, we need to check this objective. And a death brush, a slight death brush, set up by Evil Lobster, who is 8-1-6 and 14 in terms of levels.
Absolutely. I mean, looking at the gold difference right now, right? It's about a 4K gold lead in favor of Arctic Force Hares, which isn't quite enough. It looks like another arrow lands onto Fanng once again, but nothing coming of it this time. A good little disengage by the rest of the squad to keep them alive. The later on this goes, the less the gold lead matters, right? And because of how little it is even right now, they're going to start to struggle the later and later it gets.
However, that catch, it's just, at this point, it's clockwork.
That was a beautiful...
There's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that was a beautiful flash charm by Andromeda to force to actually get the kill onto Fox, and Fox didn't even get to use his ultimate, so that just cleaned up the fight right there. You have Renekton splitting on the bot side, trying to find something. GitCat is going to try to match that, but, I mean, what a play by the side. I mean, Andromeda, we had some question marks from first game for sure. This game, they're silencing everybody about those question marks.
It's just been powerful game, and the reason at this point it feels like it's clockwork to kill Fox, it's clockwork to kill Twinkerbelle, it's clockwork to kill Fanng. It's because they've done it before. Over 3 deaths on a majority share of the members. Only LoserQLegend is the one that you haven't been able to kill more than twice. And yet that's the one that you need to least worry about. It's a 4-2-4 Renekton. Yes, you can get tanky. Yes, some of these other champions are going to feel bad, but you had the perfect kite comp. We mentioned that this composition coming out of Arctic Force here, it doesn't actually want to fight. You just kind of wait. But with the overbearing pressure of layering into a lane, you know, sieging up and stuff like that, you just don't have to worry. That's another cat on HanJin as you are just dead. Not a moment to lose as HanJin at least gets a smite down on the skeletal, but really it's putting the rest of the team in a bad spot. Fanng having a flash over the wall. Andromeda trying to chase. You are a little bit low, but no one is even keeping track. Well done to catch the jungler out for a 7th time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're playing like their season on the line because it basically is on the line. Having another loss in this group could spell the end as, ooh, Andromeda gets caught off by the Kai'Sa W flash in from the Renekton. Huge turn there, trying to make something happen with no Ahri on the board.
That's painful, and now they're going to try and turn it around, though, as Brady is still very tanky. LoserQ try to get in the back, but you don't have flash. You are a low mobility champion. Now the chase is on Twinkerbelle. You're a chase. Another bouncing bomb goes out, but it doesn't freaking matter. Fox running for their life, and it's a 3-for-1 right there on the scoreboard. 4-for-1 overall as Dragon, this soul, this mountain dragon, the shields will be up. It feels like everything is going AFH's way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was a massive pick by Twinkerbelle to land that W onto the Ari, and I could see why LoserQ was playing so aggressively there. They needed to make something else happen because they're just slowly bleeding out. And I loved the aggressive play onto the Ari. Unfortunately, there just wasn't enough follow-up damage to onto the Ashe, not the Ari. There just wasn't enough follow-up damage in order to secure that kill that could have swept the rest of the fight. So now they do not have Mountain Soul. That is given over to the side of Arctic Force Hares, and they almost get this slow march down. There's Baron on them, and I just it's getting more and more just difficult for the side of U.S. Army Esports to find these plays that they need to make.
I'm just sitting here going, what move can they even make? I don't even know if a single kill will actually matter. It's, yeah, if you catch BrannyFan, that might be it. But GitCat is strong. Evil Lobster is strong. Take a look at this. Fox doing all you can, but you're just desperate. You're under tower. And GitCat on the top side, LoserQLegend trying to hold their own. What do you actually have for the side of U.S. Army Esports? Your composition has unfortunately fallen to the wayside, and I give a lot of props to AFH. They got the kills, and now you're looking towards that mid lane. I appreciate this. Push a lane down. You have the lead. No need to wait it out.
Absolutely, and you can see just how tanky the side of Arctic Force Hares can get, and this is exactly what they were trying to do in game one, is just have this overly tanky comp that can really withstand any damage that US Army Esports puts out. And I love GitCat's build here. They went for the Kanik Rukern because you have 2 AP carries on the side of US Army Esports, as it looks like Fanng just goes down once again. He's 1-8-4, just not having the effect that he needs on the map as a Nautilus to actually make plays happen. And as HanJin is also going to go down for the 8th time, does manage to get on Andromeda though, so at least they're making something happen. But I feel like it's too little too late.
It's the, we are at least fighting to the bitter end. Where does that bitter end lead? Still to death. Still to a possible game over, but unless we see some craziness happen, you're still alive, you're still kicking, so you die fighting. Right now, LoserQLegend trying to run GitCat into the ground, but this song and dance GitCat is more than happy to dance for. Top side, another question as I'm surprised that they're willing to back off right now. This is 32 minutes into the game, and AFH are trying to back away. There are no global objectives up. I don't really know what they're waiting for. I mean, Baron's up in the mid-20.
I don't think they can end there. I think there's just too much wave clear from the side of US Army Esports right now, with Fox coming back up. They're lacking a little bit on the damage side because they don't have Andromeda to force a lot of these other fights that they need to take in order to close out the game. Twinkerbelle is still up and still very strong, is barely dodging out on that area, but it looks like they are going to just die to Evil Lobster here. Yeah.
Yes, tried your best, but Twinkerbelle has unfortunately been the recipient of a struggling series, being the sub for the team. You're stepping in, I wonder, at like the last moment. So I give, you know, a window of grace right now. This is going to be a difficult scenario to be in. I mean, they're waiting for the wave. The wave was not exactly prepped, so you got to wait another like 30 seconds or so.
I mean, yeah, and it goes back to wave management always. You have to prep your waves in order to make a play like this happen. They pushed ahead of their wave, cleared out some more, but they didn't have anything to follow up, so they couldn't force an end. So they have to now reset a little bit. They have Udyr on the bot side pressing into that tower. That's perfectly fine because Baron is spawning in 10 seconds. There's no real other objective for them to be taking, and the side of US Army Esports also can't contest, so what they should be doing is trying to collapse onto this Udyr, but instead they're just like electing to run around the map a little bit and not really do anything with their time.
It's waiting for the inevitable. Baron goes down for the 2nd time here. You have an 11,000 gold lead, 4 dragons to your name, soul to your name, and Baron buff now. If this doesn't end the game, I'm scared for AFH. They have quite literally every single buff outside of Elder that you would need to close this game out. They're going to get the double bus, get a little extra behind, and then this should be just almost a full court press into the US Army's base.
Yeah, they should be running a 1-4 right now. Even I wouldn't even say 1-3-1. I think a 1-4 is a stronger one for them. Put Udyr off on the side lane because he is tanky enough to withstand 2 or 3 members from the side of US Army Esports. Have everybody else just push in as a 4, not in the mid lane because you already have wave pressure there. You're trying to force US Army Esports into making a decision and hoping that it's the wrong decision. There's not really a good right decision either. They just have to overload one side or the other, and because of that, and then pushing in the mid, they're struggling to keep up with waves. They're struggling to keep up with the champions, and they're just going to slowly bleed out even further.
At
And
this
it
point,
looks like they're going to opt into a 1-3-1, transferring into a 4-1 as Ashe backs away a little bit. So Ashe should be there with the team. It would offer a lot more pressure to them in case of a fight. She's just a little too far away. She's just now arriving. Great cleanse, though, by twinkerbelle, or else she was going to be dying.
I mean, at this point, I'm not sure if it's going to do anything different. Evil Lobster under the tower is going to hold themselves steady. Glacial Fissure going to slow down the rest of this fight, but the Baron is there. That's a jump forward. Charm lands on one, but the HP bars are melting. HanJin trying to run interference again, and it looks like they've actually held off. Evil Lobster just needs to take this tower, and there we go. Death blossoms, as that'll be the Crypt Bloom to heal up everyone. It's just a smorgasbord of death. And Andromeda on the side with another great charm and dive into the Nexus, into the fountain. Yes, you burn, but twinkerbelle will not go down. That'll be the game in a little bit of a slow burn, but it's still a game one. Arctic Forest Hares are able to force a game.
Absolutely. I mean, you can look at the scoreline, 13-35. It was definitely a high kill game on the side of Arctic Force Hares compared to US Army Esports, but the amount of macro that was having to come out from the side of Arctic Force Hares to close out this game shows just how far behind their comp was in terms of damage. So, coming into this game 3, they have the things necessary in order to win, but in order to do so, you need more damage. That's what I'm looking for now. They did close out this game. They did force a game 3, but they were still lacking so heavily on the damage that I worry about going into this next game that if they go for another low damage comp, US Army Esports did look really good. Even though they lost, they had some good looks. They need to now build on those, build from game 1, build from the good looks in game 2, and then play those out in game 3. And I think they can still take the W, even though they're kind of a little bit behind. So it's going to be interesting to see how these teams adapt. Do we see more high damage coming through from Arctic Force Hares? Do we see more tankiness coming through from US Army Esports? That's what I'm waiting to see.
We'll see if your prediction comes to fruition. We'll see what they can bring in as we are getting ready to go to game 3. Please don't go anywhere. Infinity League will be right back. And we are back already with game number 3. And my gosh, so far, Ice, we have always had a game 3 series. I would like to point that out. Every single series on stream so far has been a game 3. Even the one that we had to record for in week number 1 was a 3-game series. And it seems like this one is no different. Right now, US Army Esports, with their back against the walls, have selected or red side here in game 3. A little bit of a change up, whereas on the blue side, we're looking at the side of AFH, who got a win in game number 2, albeit a lot slower than I think we would have liked.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about constantly in that game that people needed to be putting their foot on the gas pedal, and it just never really happened. It was just like a slow chokehold of a game, which you don't see too often during this season. The meta just isn't built for that, and especially it's going to be a lot more interesting because Riot is nerfing a lot of the snowballing styles just through item changes and things like that. So I think we're going to see a lot more of this. But overall, what we want to see from both teams is if you have a lead, press it.
Mm.
No one is playing on the knife's edge, and it's creating these very long, drawn out games that actually make it very easy for you to lose off of just a single mistake. So it makes it almost like it's you're trying not to lose in order and not playing to win.
It's a little bit of a problem, and we say that with all the love in our heart because we don't want to see a lead thrown to the wayside. We don't want to see a lead just kind of not cared for. We want to see a lead utilized to its peak efficiency. So let's get right into draft here. It is, of course, as we said, it is Arctic Force Hares on that blue side. So you can see the play, the recon, still the same bands on the other side. It is the Senna and Talia. Nothing shaken up last time. This is where the differences came about. Both teams banned out previous junglers. Looks like it's going to stay a lot of the same. Viego banned away by Arctic Force Heroes. If we're reading this right, then it would actually be the Vi to come out next.
Yeah, I'm expecting the Vi here. I think it was a very strong pick, even though it didn't get utilized effectively. You can see the power in the pick, especially with that type of jungler that they have. So it should be the Vi, right? But you can see also the targeting of these mid laners and these junglers in these drafts, because those are the power points for these teams. They play heavily around their mid jungle and top jungle duos, and they kind of leave the bot side to the wayside as we see another smolder pickup. Or are they going to flip it to Kindred? They're just rotating through and they're going to take the Ash for themselves. um I would have liked to see the smolder. I think that it gives them a lot of safety that is good, but at the same time I think that Ash also played out really well in this last game.
And it's been identified that Twinkerbelle, I don't think feels amazingly comfortable in this bot lane. A lot of the times we've seen a lot more heavy-handed pressure coming down from AFH. However, this is putting a lot of pressure into Twinkerbelle. Picking up the Jinx here signals that it's a bot lane battle. If I see other lanes looking to be major carries for the side of US Army, I'd actually be a little bit worried. You have to invest a lot of resources into a Jinx, a lot of jungle time as well, and it has to go like extremely well in the early game. I wouldn't say extremely, but decently well for a Jinx to kick off to be that monster later. Maokai picked up in second.
Yeah, absolutely. Jinx Maokai is actually a very potent lane, but this Maokai is also a flex, can go jungle. This Milio being picked up with the Ashe definitely signifies that they're trying to play more aggressively in this bot side once again. But with Tinkerbell picking up this Jinx, it does put the onus on them to really pick up their play and do well. You see the Udyr hover once again. It was a very strong pick for the side of AFH, and I hope to see something like that once again. I think that they played it very well, but right now it looks like it's going to be the Kindred, a very different jungler, but no, they're going to swap it for the Gwen at the last moment, putting a lot of pressure into this top side against a tank.
Mhm. And the fact is, Gwen was banned almost every single other game by US Army Esports. You have to realize the draft is floating in a very different direction than you were planning to before. And topside as well, LoserQLegend and GitCat have been fighting tooth and nail between either side to really get an overhead lead. It's also banking on the fact that, hey, you are hoping for another Renekton game. Nah, it's gonna be that Aatrox once again banned away in games 1 and 2 in second rotation. Both top laners getting favorited champions.
Absolutely. We can see what they wanted to do on tanks. Now they're on carries. This is going to be a very volatile 1v1, 2v2, heavy topside play because Aatrox and Gwen both love to fight, both want to get ahead, and are willing to fight to do so. You can already see that they're willing to do so on tanks. Now they're going to be on fighters who want to fight. Tanks don't always want to fight. They're it's a wet noodle fight, right? They slap each other and that's really it. But when you get Aatrox and Gwen who deal a lot of damage, now we can see fireworks and explosions out of this top lane that I am excited and totally here for.
I'm also excited for this mid lane. Seeing the Ahri and the Ziggs band, a lot of respect handed over to these mid laners, but we saw some of the bans from before. We saw the Twisted Fate banned away before. We saw the likes of a Hui banned away, which is still banned away, of course. So little pieces here and there. If this is a hard focus in that mid lane, I'm very curious to see what both Fox and Andromeda are going to try and carry from the back end. Final ban coming in here. It is going to be targeted towards that jungle. I think that's appropriate. I think US Army Esports do need to take away some of that easier engage, but the Orianna to be hovered on the ban phase, little bit surprising, especially since you don't really have perfect ball delivery system, except for the Maokai. Still though, very nice threat. Just don't want it picked up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Orianna is actually can be a very strong pick here for the side of US Army Esports because they do have that top mid they or that jungle mid that they can play around. That Orianna is a good ban here because you don't want to give any agency over to them, and that one is one of the biggest kind of turning a team fight and flipping it on its head. But they decide to go for the Karma instead. Now that can be support Karma with this Maokai going jungle. It's going to be interesting to see what they round out this comp with because Karma can go mid, can go support. So they have a like three-way flex here between the Maokai and the Karma. Where are they going to go? What are they going to pick? It's all going to be up to what AFH picks on their side is how they want to round out their comp.
Mm, going for a little bit of engage. I like it. And I mean, that Kindred hover, you're loving seeing that drop down, but I think that's more respect to, a little bit of shout out to maybe their fans or something like that. Still, the Wukong
Yeah.
does help out, allow the ability to kind of jump forward, enabling a lot of these fights. And if you want to pair it with anything that can have control, you were talking about the jungle mid synergy. It is going to be that Nico, one that we haven't seen before. I mean, Andromeda's got to play really well if you want to be effective, but if you are effective, boy, is US Army in for pain.
Yeah, now I'm hoping to see a mid lane pick coming out here. I don't think Karma into Nico is something that Fox is gonna want to play. It's
Mhm.
okay, but I think Fox, based off the last two games, wants to play something that's a little bit more aggressive. But we're about to see is no, they elect for the Gragas. So looking at their comp, it's gonna be Aatrox, Gragas, Karma, Jinx, Maokai is how I see it. So it's gonna be Gragas in the jungle. I don't expect Gragas to go support. Um, it is kind of front to back in a sense, with a heavy onus on this Jinx carrying, and Aatrox kind of being a drain tank. But on the other side from AFH, I really like this comp. You have a Milio, you have an Ashe, you have a Wukong. Wukong and Nico pair so well together with the knockups and the stuns. It's absolutely insane the amount of damage they can put out. I'm super excited. It's going to be I'm hoping, based off of these champions, that it's going to be an explosive game 3 compared to the last two.
That's what we're hoping for. Whether in the top side alone, the island of do or die, or it's a team fight in the mid to late, everything's on the table. Both teams kind of hunting for that victory. AFH hunting for their second. If they get it, they secure a decent record going into week number 4 and 5. On the other side, US Army Esports want to secure that 3-0 and look like the dominant team here in Group A of the Infinity League. We're going to go to a very short break, and when we come back, we're going to get the finale, the final chapter, the end of this series. Please don't go anywhere. we are here ready to go with this game. It is game number 3, and I'm sure it's going to be entertaining. It is do or die time, game 3. If AFH win here, I think they have a shot at playoffs. I mean, clue me in a little. Well, okay, I was gonna say ice clue us in, but right now I think we're getting a little bit of a cheeky invade. This is gonna be a wander in by the entirety of the AFH side, and looks like they're more than happy to back away and just try and play a little bit smart there.
Yeah, they just dropped a ward trying to get some vision on where this Gragas is starting so they can start to track him, because especially once you get up to these higher elo games, jungle tracking is extremely important. One thing that has come about in the past few seasons is jungle clear speed doesn't matter as much anymore because everybody kind of has a decent enough clear speed. Those minuscule differences aren't going to make that much of a difference between the champions, but tracking where they are and where they're starting makes a world of difference, and tracking them throughout their clear. So that's really what they're trying to do here.
It's going to be keeping eyes on where the opponents go. Right now, it is the good old cat trick from Fanng. Fanng is chilling out a little bit with the double saplings, but they're not really going to bring anything. You were talking about the fact that this is a situation that is occurring. Fox on this Karma is one that's going to be very annoying to deal with early, but it does deal a lot less damage in the later states. But the Gragas, we do have to talk about this one. You were mentioning in between draft and game, you didn't really like the pickup, and I think that is important to note here.
Yeah, I mean, seeing from what the past 2 games, how HanJin has been playing, they're a much more aggressive style jungler that wants to carry. Gragas is not that style of champion. This is one where you're playing purely for your team. You're not going to be doing the types of damage that you are with the Xin Zhao, with the Viego, that they actually looked really good on with the Viego, and they looked pretty decent on the Xin Zhao as well. So because of that, it is all about playing purely for your team, and you're the primary engage. With that though, you're not going to be playing the same style, and I worry that that's not a good style for HanJin based on what I've seen the past 2 games.
It's something that you do got to work out as a team. You got to really make sure that you know your identity. And because of that Gragas pickup, we're actually seeing Evil Lobster get a little bit of a roam off into the enemy jungle. Take a look at that. It's a dance of the bus. It is HanJin to smite it away, so you're safe, but it is causing a little bit of confusion. HanJin getting jumped on here with Jordan Bot and BrannyFan to join in. And the control that is currently going down from the side of AFH, they're saying, yo, we're pretty dang strong, and we're going to use this early game advantage to our own lead.
Yeah, absolutely. They have a very strong skirmisher jungler in the Wukong. He got buffed. What is it now? 2 patches ago or a patch ago? Not the one that dropped today, but I think it was the patch before that. They got a massive buff to their damage. So because of that, it's really gonna really puts them at a very good spot in this early game. And as a Gragas, you just can't keep up with that. You won't have the damage ever to keep up with something like the Wukong. Is a good dodge out by Karma to avoid the stun and get a lot of damage. Now, the tables have turned onto Andromeda from last game.
Andromeda just chilling out right now, but HanJin now trying to get some revenge on the other side as Evil Lobster is actually having to burn that flash, but a belly sim is going to land. Now can they turn around? HanJin realizing that this damage is a little bit much, has to heal up behind. Andromeda going to come in to try and help out, but this little dance, LoserQLegend in a dangerous spot. Remember, Aatrox is not exactly the tankiest member out there. With no mana on Fox, you do have to retreat. It looks like with all the mess, no death abound just yet.
No, but you did force the flash out of Wukong, which is very big. Both Nico and Wukong do not have flashes, which are key engage staples that you have to have on those 2 champions in order to make plays. Wukong not as much, but definitely on this Nico.
And I think that's going to play a very crucial role. You can take a look at some of the CS differentials that have occurred because of it. Fox trying to ramp up about 5. In the bottom side, the only one that hasn't really seen any change is still actually up in favor of twinkerbelle. Surprisingly enough, twinkerbelle last time in games 1 and 2 down about 20 to 30 CS depending on the various states. That's going to be the big question. That's a flash forward, though, as Fanng unfortunately gets drawn into the tower. There is a problem abound as that's first blood turned around. Twinkerbelle had tried to make the play and is now punched out of lane behind Jordan Butt walking forward. Another Q lands, and I don't think it's going to work. Where is BrannyFan? Branny just didn't want to help out, I understand, but it's a double kill to Jordan on the Milio.
Yeah, absolutely. That is massive. The flash and then the delay on the W because of BrannyFan just kiting it out so perfectly, spacing beautifully, made it so that whenever they flashed, they brought them so deep under turret. There's nothing that this Jinx could do to help out, and it gave over first blood. Yeah, it went on the Milio, which isn't great, but it did then also secure the double for them as well. Not the greatest, but it is a lot of lane pressure that you've now given over to this Ashe Milio that isn't what you want to be doing.
Giving too much gold over, just a pain in the butt.
I mean, and you can see the difference coming out in these items, right? Noon Quiver to double longsword is really the big difference here. Both of them just bought boots. The Noon Quiver versus double longsword buy puts a lot of power into this Ashe early that the Jinx can't keep up with because of the only having the double longsword.
Such a difference in ideas, but GitCat on this Gwen. Looking like a menace, forcing the flash out of LoserQLegend after hitting level 6 first. And that's the bullying that we like to see, but the chase out, GitCat getting a little bit of an advantage there. Andromeda, though, now in a dangerous spot, trying to run for their life. Tether should be up in a second, and that's going to be held. HanJin, I mean, you could probably dive this. That spot Blossom used, though, but the stall out is enough. A final Q or auto attack will take it as Fox wins that one out.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a good punish there by HanJin. Notice how it's a lot different of a playstyle. It looks like BrannyFan might actually get this Maokai, and that's just the power that comes out now, just stepping up too far and not respecting the power of this Ashe.
Branny is more than happy about this situation. Those assist gold went into their pocket, and Fanng without flash is just kind of dead wood in the middle of an open sea. You are drifting to the whims of the waves, and you gotta respect it on Swifties as well. Fanng said, "Hey, I'm gonna get Swifties. I'm gonna try and move fast." At this point, I almost wonder if you should have gone armor boots. Steel plated might have worked. Dragon going down to Evil Lobster, and it looks like they're gonna hang tight here. Andromeda trying to cheekily force Fox to stop the recall. No dice there, but good wins around for AFH.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see the power. I like what we're seeing out of AFH. They're playing around their strong side bot. BrannyFan all 3 games has had amazing pressure in this bot side and playing it out so well. They've got those early the double kill onto Milio, now the kill onto BrannyFan. They're playing this super aggressively, exactly what they need to be doing. And GitCat is also doing well on the other side of the map as well. So they have 2 strong points. Yeah, Andromeda isn't doing as well on this Nico. Karma is putting out a lot of pressure that is going to start to fall off the later on you get. So because of that, they have avenues to play through, and they can now really I'm hoping to see stepping on this gas pedal and playing out aggressive League of Legends.
We want to see that aggression. We want to see that power behind them, and I mean, they have the right champions for it. At the current moment, though, massive kind of rotation coming out from the side of US Army Esports. They are now moving into this mid lane. Andromeda, fortunately flashing away, but another cast comes out, and this time it's a much larger one. HanJin losing that ult and not really able to get too much out of it. Once again, it is AFH that are starting to hold on to a lot of that pressure and feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, already they've jumped out to a 1.4k gold lead. You can see the power of this Gwen into this Aatrox. They took the Ignite, which actually gave them a lot of lane and kill pressure earlier on. You could see just how strong it was. And because as an Ashe Arrow does come out, I don't know if it hit anybody, but a decent engage happening. As Andromeda's taken very low in this mid lane against this Karma.
Oh, and that's, you attempted to. You tried to catch him with the Pop Blossom, but it doesn't work. And at this point, it feels good. Fox in this mid lane on this Karma that's going to be building a lot more AP. It's hopefully going to carry into the early mid.
Absolutely. And you can see the power of this Karma early into Andromeda. I was very wary of this Karma pick, and I'm glad I'm being showed wrong, right? Because US Army Esports needs some lane to play through, and it has to be this Karma right now, unfortunately, which is not great feeling. You really want to be playing through this Jinx or Aatrox. But Ashe is just able to run them down. Maokai having to throw a disengage ult just to be able to live, which is not something that should be happening. But because of that early play, giving kills over to this bot lane, they now get to play hyper aggressive and they get to scale a little bit harder than that of the Jinx right now.
I think that's true. Branny setting themselves up for success. Not only that, with Emilio on the back end, we know what a powerhouse Emilio can be, kind of that batter pack to the back. But even Lobster going in, saying these grubs are not going to be yours. A smite could come out and you can steal away that second grub. Actually, it's going to be the fifth. I didn't even notice it. This setup could be big as AFH are looking to get that monster piece. LoserQLegend is going to lose their life, and it is going to be turned for the first time in this series. 5 grubs. The Void Mines will eat their way through towers in AFH's favor.
Absolutely, and Gwen is going to absolutely love this. Gwen is one of these really good solo lane split pushers that's also really good at team fighting and can take towers extremely quickly. And then giving them grubs on top of that, absolutely massive. And Gwen has to be thanking her team for that. Yeah, she was there, but I mean, getting that right engage off. She was late to that fight, late because of that, because she recalled. So it gave the opportunity for the side of US Army Esports to grab one. So they decided to engage a little bit later and did manage to pick up 2, which is good. And GitCat is going to absolutely love this.
You're going to be so happy. You're going to be sitting up pretty. The seamstress just dancing their way to victory. LoserQLegend not going to enjoy it too much in their own right, but, you know, with a little bit of help, that could change. HanJin up on the top side, waiting for a chance with a little bit of a lane game. GitCat wondering if they can go in. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Andromeda still struggling a little bit against Fox. Honestly, in every single matchup, it feels like Fox, no matter what the champion, has had their number. Kind of the difference. LoserQ again trying to jump out, but look at the massive needle work. Not a chance for LoserQLegend to do anything right now.
Yeah, absolutely. LoserQLegend is really going to struggle against this Gwen from here on out. The Ignite, not up right now, but because they're so low, not even HanJin can make something happen here. And it looks like Gwen might be trying to freeze this wave onto them, which is actually massive to deny a lot of CS to LoserQLegend, who's played so well in this series.
LoserQLegend has been that legend for the team. Even on some of the more interesting matchups, it always feels like they are a priority member. And being able to shut them down is going to be the big difference. Game number 2 we saw was HanJin. That was a hard focus. Even Lobster roaming in, getting annoying kills down, making sure that that trundle did work. This time around, trying to do the same. Keep that Gragas down and not allow them, or not this game, but LoserQLegend, keep them down. Don't let them have free roam. That's why we're seeing another invade come in here, another route as LoserQLegend trying to join the fight, and that's going to be a little bit of a bump. Andromeda decimated where they stand. LoserQLegend gifted a kill, and Dragon hopefully going the way of US Army Esports.
Absolutely. Now, it is a Hextech Dragon, so we won't see that soul. But Jinx is going to love it as Fox is playing bodyguard to the Wukong, making sure that he can't get in and allowing his team to secure it. And then a TP topside from Fox. So Gwen, I mean, look at the amount of damage Gwen is putting out to these turrets right now. Snipping her way through these turrets is absolutely insane what she's able to do.
The arrow is just too good on the bot side. We were wondering about top, but bot is enough. BrannyFan with the final arrow to the back of the head. 2-0 and 3 with a lightning bolt in the back pocket. This is AFH now pressing the advantage. Any kill that they get, massive tower damage.
Absolutely. And you can see just how strong their comp is right now. And it's easy to execute. They have excellent engage with the Wukong, with the Nico, and the Ashe arrow on top of that. Ashe gets extended range from this Emilio, and Gwen can just be a side lane presence that always has to be matched by at least one person. And at this point, it might have to be 2 or 3, as first tower does go in favor of AFH on that bot side, and Ashe is just, they're playing this absolutely beautifully. Always been the strong point of their team, even in that loss in the first game, and they're just showing up again in game 3.
Feels good. It feels good in a series that you drastically need to win. These players are kind of putting themselves to that test. Andromeda using that clone to peak efficiency, but GitCat said, yo, I don't even want a distraction. I want that kill. Seamstress slicing through, and there are no summoner spells. Twinkerbelle running for their life, and they are going to be safe for the time being. Fox able to run interference. These shifts are causing some major concerns as Herald is looking to be stolen away. However, inside of the pit, it's still HanJin. They'll be close. They're going to look to try and get the kill instead, and it is completed, but who gets the actual Rift Herald?
I don't
It
think
might
anybody's going
not
to be able
be
to pick it up.
picked up, so you get the objective, but you don't get the major one. Twinkerbelle is going to sacrifice to it. Twinkerbelle is going to try. You do grab it, but you'll lose your life
I don't
for it.
like that.
Honestly, I don't think that's worth. We'll see what happens.
You denied the side of AFH to get it. That should be good enough. You don't need to sacrifice yourself to grab it, and especially on a Jinx that shouldn't be using it at all. It's too risky of a play because ideally you want to drive it as another arrow hits onto Fox, and what a look at the damage coming through from Ashe.
It's just too good. BrannyFan is fully unlocked, and with the battery pack of Amelia behind, you are unkillable. It is powerful, and I expect them to continue. BrannyFan with Flash and Ghost, you're gonna be an annoyance just about everywhere. So excited to see what more AFH can do. LoserQLegend, though, trying their best to get some in the back pocket. HanJin doing a little bit of Gragas trickery to have some fun, but I mean, this game, AFH for the first time feel like they are in a much more controlling spot, and it's hopefully going to continue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as this Rift Herald crashes, I don't think they're going to get anything more off of it. Yeah, but we looked at game 2 when they won, and we had some concerns about how long it took because there was just no damage in their comp. This time, they way indexed into damage. They have a Gwen top that is absolutely dominating. You have the Wukong jungle, an early game skirmisher and just damage dealer throughout the mid game. You have Nico, great engage, decent damage, and then Ashe that just, I mean, you could see about the amount of damage that's being pumped out right now. I mean, they are in the driver's seat of this game. They have an, what is it, like an almost 7,000 gold lead right now, almost 6,000 gold lead right now, based purely off of their just amazing laning phase and the amount of pressure that they've been exerting. Yeah, they lost that one dragon because of a bad roam by them. They just didn't set up for it, but they've just been so good that I'm glad to see that they've as another fight breaks out.
This is going to be the chance. Twinkerbelle is taken quite low, and a Cyclone to end their life. Evil Lobster saying, hey, step to your death, but the rest of the team is here to avenge. Evil Lobster trying to stay alive, and you do, but the Pop Blossom on the back. The TP to 4-man knockup might be the final nail in the coffin. HanJin is able to trade it back. It's still a 2 for 2, and everyone else is alive, but guess who's here? GitCat says, get good. Let me show you what domination looks like as HanJin is running for their life. Jordan is going to run interference. A belly slam of the wall, but the fight is won. Well done to Arctic Force Hares. Gosh, I've been calling AFH the entire time, and yet they deserve the full name call.
Absolutely. I mean, that is the fight that we were looking for in the last game. It's just something like that where they can just blow the game wide open, and that's exactly what they've done here. Absolutely insane. That 4-man Nico ult was absolutely mind-breaking. The amount of just sheer CC that they were able to put out. You can see what the Wukong can do in these fights. Now, granted, they're a little bit lower on tempo right now, so they're going to be second to this dragon. I'm wondering, do they give it up in favor of a turret? I'm hoping not. I want to see them fight around this dragon once again because of how strong they are.
I think they can do it. I think they can do just about anything that they want to. At this point, it's clone or be clone. Andromeda and Evil Lobster using those to peak efficiency. Not only that, drawing the attention away from the mid lane, able to pick it up. They are now 3 towers to 0. AFH are feeling great. Arctic, the winter, howling over and taking over the rift right now. Dragon available. It is Chemtech. Once again, we see this dragon that can cause a lot of chaos in the later stages of the team fights. Of course, GitCat will love that even more as they are 3-0-0. How many people are actually going to contest this? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, you can see that USA is arrow hits on the Karma. Excellent hit there.
Oh, Pop Blossom enough into the back line. It's happening again, Ice. It's happening again. Destruction raining down from above. Twinker is trying to run away. Twinkerbelle is the only one safe, but you walk in for another auto attack. GitCat's like, yo, please let me get the kill. It's still 4-0, and AFH are looking fully in the driver's seat.
Absolutely, that was another huge 4-man Nico ult into the Wukong ult that allowed the Wukong to get a double kill, absolutely massive, and you can see now that Twinkerbelle just can only clean up CS waves. They can't even step up to this one because of how far behind they are right now, and they're losing mid lane tier 2 as well. I mean, absolutely blowing this game wide open, putting their foot to the gas pedal, and really shutting us up about how slow they've been and thinking that maybe they can't play fast. They are absolutely doing it right now.
Oh, it's looking good. This is going to be great. AFH coming back with a mini reverse sweep here. And honestly, everything is leaning towards their favor. Even the late game, I feel like, is leaning into their favor. Tinkerbell on
Absolutely.
0-4 and 1, 0-4 and 1 on Fanng. There doesn't seem to be enough. And I hate saying it. I think a miracle needs to come down for the side of the U.S. Army Esports squad, which they have the champions to do so. If you get a couple of those massive bounties into Tinkerbell's pockets, maybe you can bounce back. Maybe you can look for the team fight aggression. At the current moment, though, it's just such a long ways away.
Absolutely. And you can see that the Karma versus the Gwen is not going well. Gwen can just easily push out these waves. Nico is covering topside. They're going to try to make something happen against her with the Aatrox ulting here, but just nothing is able to come up as another arrow lands.
Arrow lands on a target not intended, but it still leaves HanJin in a dire strait. Evil Lobster comes in for a killing spree
And
sweep.
Fang's on the Baron. They're just starting Baron.
It's easy. It's so easy. This is the acceleration that we are hoping for. We said in game 1 and 2, we wanted to see AFH look stronger. We wanted to see them play better. We wanted to see them in a more aggressive stance, and they are doing it at 21 minutes. In games 1 and 2, they wouldn't even look this way. This time around, looking at a 21.5-minute Baron, it looks great. It looks strong. It looks done. It is a massive buff to the side of Arctic Forces Hares.
Absolutely. And you can see they're even taking away the jungle from HanJin. He has nothing that he can do right now. He got caught out by that arrow. It was an unlucky arrow. I think they were going for the Aatrox there and just happened to catch HanJin at the same time. So they got the jungler. They took the Baron. I mean, if this isn't pedal to the metal, I don't know what is.
I think the only thing that would be different is if you're literally just pressing with 5, gather around, GitCat, just be like, yo, rush it, you're 5-0 and 1, you are 2.5 items deep, you can kill anyone. That would be the only way. But I do like their pace. I do agree. They have everything in their pocket. This is where I don't want to see them stall out. The last few Barons that we've seen have been a little bit, wonky back and forth. It's been used more as a crutch than an actual tool. Let's see what they can do here. Remember, they just got Baron. If they get more towers, that's great. At the current moment, though, they're just shoving in the waves. They're getting their lane situated. And LoserQLegend going to try and hold their own. And they do just annihilation in the back of this zone. Powerful stuff. As LoserQLegend is like, yo, you might be fed. You're still pretty squishy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what they need to start doing in order to come back into this game. You can see Gragas is actually going for a more damage-oriented build, starting off with this Lich Bane as the first item. I mean, I think you have to. I don't like it because you really struggle now in the tanky department when you are the main engage on this composition.
This was an attempt. BrannyFan is just like, yo, you tried to fight me, but I got the battery pack in my back pocket. TP coming in to try and help out. Fox is going to try and empower Q. It's not really going to land. And look at that. 4 members, 3 even, are able to run off 5 of this squad. That is rude. That is just, dude, this is... Oh, man. This is the squad of AFH looking to try and at least grab an inhibitor if they can. Unfortunately, no one else is really around. They can only push in the waves at the top.
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about earlier how AFH is really playing for their season right now. They do not want to get into a potential 3-way tie for second to last in the group, which could then potentially set them up to not make playoffs. But with this win, it sets them up very well for their playoff run. And that's exactly what they're looking forward to doing, as Fox is having to flash away from GitCat, and GitCat is just having a ball up in that lane right now.
As long as GitCat's in a 1v1, 1v2, even a 1v3, I don't think they're going to die. It's only if we see a dog pile of 5. And even then, I'm so worried. Maybe the 6th member, the tower, will do enough. Yeah, the tower might actually help out. This is a too far of a die. GitCat went way too far in the paint. TP going in, though, as even Lobster's like, okay, we'll just push bot side. This is a little bit messy here, I think.
Yeah, it's getting to be a little bit messy. This is not what we want to see. Yeah, you want to play on the knife's edge, But with Fox out of mana, all you had to do was push that into tower and not go for the kill. That's all you had to do. You could easily take that tower from underneath them because they had no mana for Q or for E. So what exactly were you going to do? As it looks like Evil Lobster might be caught out.
I mean, you're still fairly tanky. It's going to take a while to really beat through, and that means that the arrow can come in and help out. Even Lobster with another Cyclone doing some damage, but the heals coming in for LoserQLegend is big. HanJin coming around the edge, trying to get some more, and that's going to be a laser, but the pop onto the back. Burst them all out. Yes, get shut down number one, but the Maokai is going to fall. Now the turnaround is coming around. Andromeda drawing, and it's going to be a double kill for twinkerbelle, the one that we have said has not had a fun series, able to collect extra kills. GitCat, though, respawning in, saying, I am ready, and wait, GitCat up and available. Maybe he gets something, but the bowling is available, and you bounce it right into twinkerbelle's hands. What a moment. US Army Esports gift an overall triple to their ADC.
Oh, that was insane. I mean, Evil Lobster going just too far into that fight, going into the engaged tank of the Gragas, and Jinx got to free fire the entire time. If you are on Wukong, you need to be getting onto this Jinx. There was a beautiful 3-man Pot Blossom, but with no follow-up damage from the Ashe, because it was just too deep in there, and so they were able to take out on Andromeda, and they just were able to chain that farther and farther. They got the shutdown onto GitCat, and all of those, crucially, getting onto the Jinx. This Jinx has been accelerated a little bit.
A little bit, I feel, is like an understatement. You went back, you now have 2.5 items. You're about to pick up your IE afterwards. This is the influx. This is the injection of gold that we are hoping to see. It's nowhere near what BrannyFan has, by the way. It really isn't, because Emilio kind of converges over that fact. But it's still a nice deal, and you can see where that damage source is coming from. Remember, this is like 4 straight damage sources for the side of US Army. It's such a dangerous side. Fox right now on the top side, now trying to dance their way out. It feels okay, but we're starting to hit that point, Ice, where again, we are wondering, is this going to turn into last fight territory? All of the early game work that AFH have put together is just going to go to the wayside.
It feels like it might be. You can see just the power of this squad right now. Banshee's Veil coming through for the Gragas to withstand a little bit of the early engages. Karma putting out quite a bit of damage with that Mantra Q onto Andromeda. That was more than I expected. But it looks like we're going to get a collapse onto the Karma here. Arrow does land.
Listen, if you want that fight, all you gotta do is be mean. Rocket from downtown doesn't really hit on Andromeda's side either, as Fox is actually able to sustain for a really long time. Still falling, though, gives an advantage over towards the Baron side, as AFH are ready to look for their second Baron of the game.
Yeah, this is Baron number 2, and they didn't get a lot from Baron number 1, I'll be honest. Like, we were hoping for them to put the pedal to the metal, and they kind of floundered it. So seeing what they do with Baron number 2 is going to be crucial, as HanJin is here. Evil Lobster does jump over to take the Blast Cone, but I'm still a little nervous for the side of AFH, seeing how these last few minutes have panned out.
I think it's warranted. We have to take into account that this is the team. We saw the pressure early, but that was only for about a 3-minute, 4-minute span. And they do it again. Fanng gonna sacrifice their life, go in a little bit and try and keep everyone off. And it really does look like just an attempt to keep everyone safe. The Evil Lobster goes in on the backside. HanJin is still alive, but how far can you go? A final tag does it, and Branny with the burn. Burns away after HP bars. Fox on the other side trying to help out, but the arrow again lands perfectly, and Fox has nowhere to run. You are just dead. 2 dead. Should surely mean the Baron this time.
Yeah, absolutely. No jungler, no mid laner. Fox was just on the wrong side of the rift there. There was no need to be there. Your jungler was down. As a Karma, you are not going to put out enough damage. You need to be sitting around this Jinx and buffing this Jinx up. And that is not what you seem to be doing. And instead, you kind of just gave your life for nothing. And so let's see, can they actually make use of this second Baron? It is a Chemtech Dragon in a minute 40. So that is probably going to be our next team fight opportunity, I'm going to say. Only because if you look at the rest of the map, there's no real good waves that are pushing except for top lane. But no one's headed there. So the minions are kind of maybe going to take it. But with where it looks like they're meeting, it's not going to take it. So it's really all about this dragon setup right now.
The dragon is so important. Vision needs to be laid down. You can see it here. A lot of control wards down for the side of US Army Esports. They're trying to take control of their own jungle. LoserQLegend, by the way, has been able to kind of stand their own, even though they're 2, 3, and 4. We can see the power that they have. And as you said, these Banshees, these extra shields are being very appropriately allocated. But it can only block one. It can only block one ability. That Ash Arrow is big, and you kind of need that shield for the Banshees. This is why I was curious. LoserQLegend now almost dropping Fox into the danger as the Nico Blossom catches multiple. Zanya's going to be used as well. Arrow going to go out to try and help out. Andromeda looks like they're safe. Evil Lobster now running interference, keeping everyone off. Their team doesn't want to push too far, but Fanng steps up the tree. It's chopped and annihilated. The force will fall as HanJin is getting melted. Disco all you want, but Disco died a while ago. And HanJin is praying for a chance. Twinkerbelle can do nothing but watch as bottling. It's forced into oblivion. This might be the closeout that AFH needs.
Yeah, I think they can close out here. They have Baron. They have a bunch of minions. Their health bars are a little low. So I guess they're going to back off, worried about giving this Jinx a reset as Dragon is spawning in 2 seconds. And making sure they can secure this one puts them on soul point if the game does go on that long, but I surely hope it doesn't, as they just send BrannyFan potentially back into the meat grinder there with that blast plant.
Nah, listen, ADCs can fend for themselves. There's no worry. You know, it's not like ADCs need a hand to hold. You know, it's fine. They can fend for themselves, especially when they're 5-1 and 14. Like,
yeah,
you're pretty solid.
Absolutely. But I mean, this game has been so topsy-turvy. US Army Esports almost coming back, and it was really just like a team fight and a half away from taking it into their grasp, but giving away a little bit too much puts it firmly back in AFH's hands. It's really AFH's to lose at this point with the 12,000 gold lead that they have essentially. I mean, I don't see how they lose it, except for just massive misplays.
I also don't want to see them get scared of trying to push into these towers. I know their range is short, but you got Amelia, you got the safety. You can bully towers down very easily. You don't have to hunt for a kill. They are doing that as Branny is in the top side, holding down this top side tower. I appreciate this. I really do like this current situation, but Branny now rotating back out, trying to group up the rest of the team in mid. And of course, this is kind of that open area, but Andromeda is a little bit further away and alone. This looks a little bit dangerous. Chases out as that will be Nature's Scraps to come out. A little bit of an advancement. How far can you go? No one on the side of US Army Esports wants to make that crucial mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. The disengage ult from the Maokai is actually going to be crucial for this upcoming fight because it caught no one. They weren't able to catch anybody out. It really does now leave them open for this.
Yes, it does. That's a whirlwind if I've ever seen one. The Cyclone does a little bit, but doesn't really stop them. The Pop Blossom does a bit more, but the HP bars are actually still pretty healthy. Inside the base, I'm kind of curious. AFH don't actually have the raw damage. BrannyFan can't actually hit anything, and Evil Lobster and Andromeda might have jumped the gun a bit.
Yeah, a little bit too far for Evil Lobster and Andromeda. BrannyFan was not in a position to put out some damage like they needed to, and neither was GitCat. So what happened was because Evil Lobster went so far, it allowed LoserQLegend to stack up a little bit on them and just stun them up and blow them up. With the rest of the team, they managed to lock them down, and then Andromeda came in after that. So it was like a one after another. Instead of going in as a team and comboing, it allowed exactly what we didn't want to happen for US Army Esports to potentially come back into this a little bit. Yes, they lost 2 inhibs, but now they have supers pushing in. They need to worry about their top side. Can the side of AFH actually close out this game?
I hate asking that when we see 11,000 gold lead. I hate asking that, but hey, listen. Might as well go for Baron number 3. Might as well look. And to put that in perspective, normally you can break the base with 1 Baron. Normally you can break the base with 1 Baron. Not only are we going to get our 3rd Baron of the game, we're also going to look at Soul Point here in about 2 minutes. So everything kind of trailing into big fight or not. However, again, with 2 inhibitors down, this is making it extremely easy for AFH to collect these buffs.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can see in that last fight, that was without Maokai ult. They were able to put out and actually win that fight without a key team fight ultimate. So I'm worried for the side of AFH if they try to do another engage like that, and if Maokai ult is up, do they actually win that fight? Even with this gold lead, we're 35 minutes into the game. It's not mattering as much anymore. You can see the amount of items coming through from both sides. Both teams are coming in on as a catch out onto Andromeda. This is not good.
Andromeda. Yeah, Andromeda's just dead. HanJin going into what looks like to be a steal that is going to be the Zanya's, but it's still smited away. Good pick up by Evil Lobster. How much more can you get? Twinkerbelle on the other side can't really do anything, and that's the strike. GitCat is allowed to pop off. The Rockets are doing work, and BrannyFan has to run away. That's a big pop. Rocket goes out. You're able to hit one. TP going to the back. GitCat is dead. Oh, Twinkerbelle is popping up. Triple kill for the Jinx, 4 dead, but you gotta get back to the base. You gotta get back to defend your Nexus.
Absolutely, but that is the fight that US Army Esports needed. Yes, they didn't get the Baron, but they picked off Andromeda in the first. Then they got BrannyFan. They were able to clean up on GitCat, Evil Lobster. That is the totally wrong thing that they needed to happen. And you can see this gold lead shrinking. It doesn't matter as much. Yes, they got some damage down on the Nexus turrets because that fight and the minions coming in. But inhibs are respawning. Bot inhib is already respawned now. Mid inhib is going to respawn in just a few minutes. And the tables are turning. Our next fight now is at Seoul, and questions are now popping up even more. We've been talking about it a little bit, but AFH, you're struggling. You need one fight. Can you get this one fight, or is this going to be it?
I'm not sure. We're reaching that late game territory where things like that are just whatever, right? HanJin, a celebratory ultimate, just, yo, we got the dragon. We got the objective that we wanted. Oh my gosh. Ice. Oh, AFH had everything. AFH had everything that they could have wanted, and yet it feels kind of botched at this point. You are full itemed out on BrannyFan. This Ashe will not get any stronger, and yet Twinkerbelle can continue to grow by one more. Tanking wise as well, LoserQLegend looking a bit stronger. Same with Fanng.
Yeah, this Jinx is always going to output more damage than this Ashe, so it comes down to GitCat, it comes down to Andromeda to pick up where this Ashe leaves off and secure kills where maybe this Ashe can't, because otherwise, if this Jinx starts to get excited again, that could spell the end of this game for the side of AFH and potentially the rest of their season. Granted, they can still play through the regular season, but this loss may actually set them outside of playoff range if they lose the tiebreakers.
I mean, you're playing for your playoff life, so it is true you got to scrap together with the best of them, but how much more are you going to get? Another push coming in here in the mid. HanJin trying to get a little bit of flank. Out goes Nature Scraps, and it's 2 held on to. The clone not really going to do much, and it actually works wonders. The clones did so much work there. Even I was bamboozled considering how late we are into this game. You body blocked the entirety of Fang's ultimate. And now it's going to be another inhibitor. Another break of these inhibs feels great, and this is where the Void Mites really put in a lot of work. Do you get the inhib or not? Baron buff is gone, and they weren't really able to get anything. That actually feels really bad.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see the power of this Jinx now, chunking Evil Lobster to half health without even trying. I mean, not even in any danger. And I'm at a loss right now for AFH. They were looking so good. They had a 12,000 gold lead. They had 2 Barons. They had 2 inhibs down, and they couldn't close out the game. They just went a little bit too aggressive. They were on soul point. They had it. They had everything they needed, and then they gave it all in a nicely gift wrap package for US Army Esports. And from here on out, it's going to get even harder for them. They have a very short range comp comparatively to the Karma and the Jinx that like short ranges because they get to put out more, and it's getting harder and harder and harder for AFH to close this out. And for US Army Esports, their damage is only getting higher.
It's going to continue into this bullying late game. I'm going to be thrilled if this is one of the few games that we actually get to see level 18s on everyone outside of Fanng. We are 17 across the board and then 18 on Fox. for the side of US Army Esports. On the other, Andromeda just hit level 16, now level 3. Pop Blossom, that might be enough to kind of close in. The other reason that we aren't seeing that Pop Blossom do as much, there's no Rabadon's death cap on Andromeda. You've actually had to index into utility. You've had to index into safety. You're not indexing into that Crypt Bloom. There's so many little pieces that you're just like, dang, this kind of sucks. I want to do more damage, but you're just not allowed to. So it's wait, it's see, it's wait and see until the next objectives come up. 1.5 minutes on Dragon. That'll be the big soul point, and that's where things are going to be do or die by either side. I will say, considering how games 1 and 2 went, if we actually see one of the teams give up this Dragon, I'll be sorely disappointed.
Absolutely. I mean, you can see that even though they've had 2 good fights, they're still pushing their bait to US Army Esports. So they're still down they're not down and out, but they are still on the losing side still, but they're slowly crawling their way back up. This next fight, Baron's in 35 seconds, Dragon's in 55 seconds. There's about a 21-second differential between the two, and because Baron's spawning first, do you go for it first, or do you decide to hold off, secure Soul, then go for Baron? And it looks like they're going to actually want to grab Baron first. They're posturing for Baron. They have excellent vision control for it, but can they actually take it without losing everybody? That's the question.
I mean, GitCat's on the bottom side, ready to kind of like surprise push this lane if they can. And I think that's what they're going to go for. Baron is going to be started up, and there's the pings. You can see it down on the bottom side of the screen. GitCat is like, yo, I'm going to hard push. No one else is seeing this Baron, but it's going to be splitting up everyone, and I actually really like this call. AFH trying to draw almost an act of desperation, if you will. Baron is very, very low. That's going to be cast inside, and it's still smited away. Very nice pickup by Evil Lobster. How many are going to stay alive? A clone goes out, double clones to deny this ability of the Maokai. Now can they turn around? Evil Lobster is going to go in, but how much do you actually get? I'm not sure behind us. That's going to be a Zanya's Pop Blossom in the back, and the flash to catch them all. Level 3. If you will. AFH finally, 10 minutes later, find the perfect fight. LoserQLegend forced away from the chance, and it is going to be that game 8-4-0. It was long, it was arduous, but AFH battled back and take game 3 and hold their hopes of going to playoffs.
Absolutely. I mean, what an ending. I don't think we could have had a better ending to this game. It could have ended so much earlier. But with the game that we had, it was so back and forth, and US Army Esports almost had it. They just got caught out by that last flash Pop Blossom that was so crucial. I mean, Andromeda did give a little bit in that mid game and allowed US Army Esports to come back into it. But at the end, getting that 3-man Pop Blossom absolutely demolished US Army Esports and allowed them to take that game 3 victory and keep their playoff hopes alive.
And for US Army Esports, it feels kind of bad because, yes, they played well, but you can almost chalk it up to, hey, twinkerbelle, sub coming in here. They didn't have their full roster. They didn't have everyone available. They're still in the running for playoffs. We could even see a rematch of this match in playoffs if we get to that point. So I'm very curious. Do you think this is the full strength of US Army Esports? Do you think that sub did play into it, or do you think AFH was just better on the day?
I think that sub had something to do with it. You saw in games 1 and games 2 that they struggled into the bot lane of AFH. BrannyFan just putting on a masterclass in that bot lane of having just constant pressure. And because of that, it really put twinkerbelle on the back foot in every game. Even this last game, they were on the back foot. And I think if they had a more cohesive unit in their bot lane that maybe wasn't a sub, that they could have actually had a much better game 3. I mean, we can say that games 1 and games 2, if they ended that way, if they didn't have that sub in game 3 and they were maybe a little bit stronger, a little bit more synergistic there, that maybe they could make something happen and actually come away with that W for game 3 and put themselves to 3-0. But because of the standings right now, with US Army Esports losing to Arctic Force Hares, that puts them both at 2-1. With how the group is looking and the games that we've seen, I'm expecting Cupid Esports, if they haven't already, to go 3-0. They were playing Distortion Overdrive, which would put Distortion Overdrive at 1-2. Akuma Scythes and the Fraud team are playing each other, so that'll put one of those teams at 1-2. So that means there's a two-way tie for the last playoff spot in the group right now. So with this win, Arctic Force Hares does keep their playoffs hopes alive. They still need to continue to win, but this is the first step on that journey. And if they would have lost, it would have been a three-way tie for that spot, which is not something you want to be in.
Absolutely not. So, congratulations to Arctic Forest Hares for the victory here tonight. And we'll see them all next week to see if they can continue. Of course, right now, we are going to call it a night. It has been a long, arduous best of three, but I wouldn't have it any other way. From myself, Orbital, as well as Ice Fire Ride Gaming, and of course, Scooby on our production. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a fantastic night.